All right, we are live. Welcome to my stream today. It's been quite some time. Feels like it's been a month, and then it was like a month before that. As things would have it, I've just been doing a lot of stuff, doing a lot of vacation. I just came back from a 4-week road trip across the U.S. and all the way into Canada. I went to go visit my great grandfather, who or not my great grandfather, my grandfather. I talk from my kids' perspective now. It's something you'll find you do when you have kids. Over in Thunder Bay, Ontario. So I went pretty much in a big loop around and came back down through the Grand Canyon. It was like over 6,000 miles of driving. Oh yeah, okay. We got some people in the chat. Yeah, come say hi. Come join in. I'm streaming this on YouTube like I always do, but I thought I would also run this in parallel on Twitch. So we'll see. I have I've never really tried to promote or use Twitch, so I think I have like 10 followers or something. So we'll see if anyone joins us through there. But for now, we just run like our normal stream. But yeah, a lot's been happening over the last month. I feel like I missed a lot actually while I was away. Previously, I was kind of around and I just wasn't doing stuff, but I was like driving every day. I tried to check out what I could, but I only really latched onto a couple things while I was away. So I've had to play a lot of catch up the last couple days. So yeah, a lot's been going on. Just rambling right now while I wait for some people to come in and join the stream. There we go. Here we go. People are coming in. All right. Well, yeah. How's everyone else doing? As I said, I've been having a great start of my summer. Yeah. Hi, everyone. So many of you. Oh man. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been doing good. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I was debating. I was trying to. I realized this morning. I was like, oh no, I don't have lemonade. And since I moved the Friday streams earlier, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do my normal cocktails. I mean, you can pretend like I have a gin buck or something right now, but no, this is just an orange juice with ice. Nothing too fancy. Yeah, no. That used to be probably the game to guess what I was drinking each Friday, but yeah, this is lunchtime now for me, so I don't want to get started too early. All right. Yeah, so I'm going to start this the same way I start all my streams, and just kind of talk about this month in JavaScript. I'm right off the bat. We've had a lot of talk. Obviously, the streams are obviously a lot of talking about performance, but the highlights I've noticed a lot have been performance related. Maybe those are things I pick out at when I don't have much time, like when I'm trying to decide what I'm going to look at. Yeah, I do see a couple people now coming from Twitch. That's awesome. But yeah, let's just kind of go there. I've caught a couple of things in the last 2 days, even like other people's streams. Like, you saw Theo's performance related streams where he was testing a really basic kind of like, he was testing the server performance, like how fast can I get my HTML to the page? And now that we have things like Bun and Deno Deploy and Cloudflare, and like there's a whole bunch of movement there, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. Although, admittedly, my focus is usually on the framework side, like on the both on the part he didn't cover, like on the essentially like how long it takes to render stuff on the server from the framework perspective, that little gap, and also like hydration costs, client side boot up, all those kind of things. So it's the other side of the spectrum. And yesterday I watched a great stream also with Mishko and the whole Builder crew talking about the future of routing, which is, as you all know, it's a really big topic from my perspective. I think routing is sort of the missing piece we need for bridging the gap, solving the MPA versus SPA debate that's been going on. So yeah, lots of good discussions and about performance, which is, I said, right in my wheelhouse. So really cool stuff. Yeah, the stream's back. Yeah. Hope bear with me. I've been trying to catch up the last couple of days. I also got back into Netlify and doing all that stuff. I basically did my onboarding HR kind of training video type stuff, and then I was like off again. So it's been busy, but yeah. We knew it was coming, right? Like I was really excited a month ago when I saw that thing where Cloudflare announced that they were opening source, or not, was it opening source? But they were like releasing their runtime too. Like it's another viable option that's probably is going to go beyond just their infrastructure. So we're talking Bun, we're talking Deno, we're talking Cloudflare, talking Node, we're talking like there's an interesting mix and match of both infrastructure and these JavaScript runtimes. What's good is they are actually somewhat consolidating on what those core pieces are that we need, like the whole browser-based request response model and things like that. So we're going to look at Deno today, obviously, because we're going to be looking at Fresh. But yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. Let me just kind of share my screen here, and I'm just going to start at the beginning because it's easy for me to go a timeline. I left town on June 9th, and I went back to around June 8th to right before I left. And the very first story that I found was a performance-based story, even back then. Not that this is everyone's cup of tea per se, but as you guys know, worked with Marco dev team, and the newest member of the Marco dev team came over from Kroger, and he'd been working. He's written a great article series if you guys haven't checked it out, and he was working on basically upgrading Kroger's website. So he made a prototype, and he's like, okay, look, we want performance, we want load time, we sell stuff, these things matter. So he ended up on this path where he realized that an MPA was actually the way he wanted to go. It made a lot of sense, and he just, honestly, if we don't have to watch the whole video, but just check this out for a second. Let's go back to the beginning here, just so you understand and have a little context here. The demo is what he made. This is Kroger's current website. This is Kroger's current native site. Here's Amazon.com and here's Walmart.com. And the whole thing is the demo is built with Marco using an MPA. Kroger.com and Walmart.com are using React. Amazon.com is using their custom, almost vanilla JS setup. And the native app, but I believe is probably, I don't know what it's using exactly, but it's built using native. And he wanted to show load up time because I think some people are kind of, native knows that they have you, so they sometimes don't focus on how long the loading came in. So he basically launched everything at the exact same time on a mobile device with slow internet. And I like doing lighthouse scores and stuff like this, but this example is so illustrative. Like, just watch how this comes in. First of all, obviously the Marco MPA Islands architecture thing comes right in, and then Amazon. Walmart comes in, but it's still sitting there loading, right? You're kind of like, okay, Walmart. Kroger's one then finally comes in, and he actually doesn't just do a single page load. He actually does a checkout process where you have to do it. See, he already bought the item in the Kroger by this point. And I mean, you almost have to pause along it to actually see all the things, but you find the results. Like, these aren't all exactly equivalent, but he's actually showing like how the actual user flow is. And this is with, so you can't, some people are like, well, if you have an MPA, you're going to reload a bunch of stuff and you do the page navigation. This is taking those hits completely into consideration. And just watching this is really interesting because you can definitely see the Spinnergeddon of the spas, so to speak. And obviously his demo is already done because he was using streaming and stuff. But yeah, Amazon's pretty good. In terms of a huge company, Amazon is pretty good. They finished at about a minute doing this workflow. And interesting, I think native finishes up pretty quickly here. But essentially, I mean, as I said, these aren't quite equivalent examples. But I mean, you watch this for a couple minutes, and I mean, we can go on, but I think it takes almost a whole nother minute for the React apps to finish. It's just trying to show that maybe sometimes it's like one size fits all isn't where it needs to be today. I'm a big proponent of the potential of us consolidating on single solutions here, but like it's just showing, and obviously with the hindsight of knowledge, like the Kroger rewrite, he knew what he was writing better than the company did as new requirements came and things got going. But like I'm just still talking here, and you know like we don't have to watch it all. I mean, I'm running out of things to say while we wait for this stuff to finish. So we'll just move on. Do you think the focus on e-commerce for JS purposes is because unique requirements need to be both, depending on what you go? I think it's because it's one of the few places where page load actually really, really matters. Other places, obviously, it's good, but it might not translate to your bottom line as much. And e-commerce sites, especially, are really like religious about testing this stuff. Like at eBay, we had teams, like speed teams, working on this stuff, and they made sure nothing ever regressed. It was really hard because it's hard to add features and then have the page not slow down. So it put a lot of friction on velocity, and they've been trying to figure out how to make stuff work. But the problem is, like, all the way back to like the Java days, there was like when they had full Java backend, they've had these times, and they're like, okay, we can't slip. So that's where Marco came from, because it's like, nope, can't do that, need to do this. But the thing is, what's challenging is if you have new pages that don't actually have those stipulations, you might let those slip, and then that's the new baseline. So I don't know if the approach actually holds up completely over time, but this is why builders make such a big deal about it, and eBay and Amazon. Like Amazon's 1 minute here for the slow is actually very good. Amazon is one of the best performing e-commerce sites on the large scale. You notice he didn't put eBay in here. And I mean, even, like we know that, eBay is not faster than Amazon in this comparison. I think he would want to focus on using Marco in a different environment. But I mean, it's hard. So I'm very impressed with Amazon, even if that's a minute, because as you can see here, I think Walmart finished at 2 minutes and 14 seconds, and he didn't even get to the end of Kroger before he cut the video. I love eggs from eBay. yeah, right. So, but I'm just like, it takes at a certain scale, it takes effort beyond just the developer effort to maintain and keep that going over for years and years and years. And I think that's why it's always conscious, and that's why it's an easy target to talk to coming in, because like, you want those page speeds, you want the SEO benefit, you want to be able to show up. Google starts ranking your pages based on performance and stuff like that. So it's an easy topic. The problem is my Hackernews and Hello World programs are not going to show the complete picture. I'm a framework author. So for me, when I'm looking at those examples, I'm looking at mechanics. I'm going to focus on like taking something and pushing it to like cranking it to 11 or whatever, just so that I can see where the bottlenecks potentially could be. But the truth of the matter is that's still a death by 1,000 cuts kind of approach. Obviously, the best example would be like a holistic real world example, but every real world example is different. And the more real world you make it, the harder it is to port it across things. So I focus on the micro and hope that enough things add up. And in my experience, at a certain point, they probably don't. I think that's the whole thinking behind Facebook. Look at this as a more tricky engineering problem, But on the small scale, what I found with my work with Solid is if I just make Solid faster at like every little thing, it's generally pretty good for everyone. Like it's a good baseline, right? I just go, okay, fast as this, fast as this, fast as this, fast as this, and then like it kind of averages out pretty good. But realize that it's not a foolproof thing. This is just the best we can do with what we have. So, and yes, probably with money inside. Yeah, exactly. Like it affects your bottom line. I've seen numbers, studies, some things internal I can't share. There is as far as we can tell, there is a direct correlation. But it doesn't. that's just an easy one for people to see. Like I thought it was really interesting that I was on a space with Dan Abramoff a while back, and he was talking about an example where it was hard to use the metrics to figure out where the bottleneck was or what the issue was, because for something like Facebook, it's not buys but like engagement. And he was talking about how, as far as I could tell, the new solution was more performant, so they think they'd have better engagement, but it was getting lower numbers. And it was actually some really tricky, intermittent, behind the scenes bug. And if they just trust only the performance numbers, they might have not found it. Like it was a really interesting space. Unfortunately, it wasn't recorded. It was very impromptu. But this is hardly a science, is what I just want to get out there, right? So, anyways, I'm gonna move on a bit. Also at the same time, if you missed this was actually kind of cute. Matthew Phillips, one of the core maintainers of Astro, had mentioned that the whole progressive part of the partial hydration happened by accident with Astro. It wasn't like their initial idea. Like they were working on the partial islands thing, and basically he was partway through implementing it, and Fred was like, I kind of like how the stuff hadn't loaded. So then they just kept that in and then turned it into a switch. I mean, it's this funny little anecdotal story, but this pattern that they came up with the directive based or loaders is now getting copied all over the place. So I think that's really an interesting little story, right? The different pieces come together. Islands architecture obviously existed before Astro for several years, but this whole progressive islands thing, I think, is something we can credit them for, and it happened by accident. I love stories like that. Right? Yeah, I'm trying to remember what. Yeah, more talking, and this is kind of along the same thing, right? Ryan Florence kind of went on a little spiel around the same time, because he was like, I think people are really bugging him about partial hydration. And it's funny, the stream today is going to be about partial hydration and with Fresh, but they're bugging about it with Remix. And he's like, well, see if you actually need it and what you're optimizing for, right? And I mean, there might have been a tone of like, you're generally not going to need it. And he's right. Maybe for a lot of things, your blog site, you don't need it. But I mean, we can go back here. This is a clear place where there's benefits. So, I think it's important to build to your use case. Okay, so skip forward about a month, because I'm trying to do this quickly so we can get to the good stuff and to Fresh, right? So really cool thing was I got to speak at JS Nation, and I did a talk on Solid's reactivity that I really enjoyed. I've been kind of planning this talk forever. I was going to originally do it as a stream, and then once I was kind of testing ideas on someone else's stream, the guys from the core team from Solid liked it so much that they made Dan Jutan went and made the intro video for Solid based on that. I finally gave that talk at JS Nation. But also, Solid won Breakthrough of the Year on the open source award, so that was really quite cool. But it also kind of shifts into something that I saw a really common theme, and it lends to Rich Harris's talk at the Open Source Awards, and just a lot of what's been going on. The focus in the community right now, as much as we're talking about performance right now, and we're going to go in this wave, documentation is just such a big push right now. And if you didn't get to check it out, I mean, there's a sea chanty at the beginning, which people are kind of like 50-50 on. Do check out Rich Harris's talk. I don't know if it's available yet. We should look. I know that the YouTube streams for JS Nation are out there. So but I don't know if it's posted anywhere. But it's definitely really cool, and he talks about the importance of that. And we're going to actually talk a bit about our efforts on the community meeting that we were having next week. I'm trying to see if I have that listed somewhere here, but yeah, we'll get there. Yes. But yeah, no, I just wanted to talk about that. No, this is not what I want to talk about. It's interesting. If you guys follow Dan Abramoff too, he has been going like a beast on documentation for React. And I don't know, even if you're not a React fan and you're into this stuff, a lot of you guys follow Dan already, but seriously, really interesting stuff. I just started bookmarking his stuff because I was like, I need to come back and think about this stuff. And I have so many of them. I had to clear a couple of them out of here so I could like show it. Like they've been putting so much thought into this stuff, right? I have so many topics because of what's been going on, but I just wanted to highlight just how cool the documentation effort has been going on. There's some other cool talks at the JS Nation as well. Yehuda Katz from Ember introduced this like universal rendering thing. It keeps on switching on me, and I thought it was interesting because it actually is a lot of similarities to the system we have in Solid. I think it's interesting because there's this desire perhaps for us to have like a universal rendering solution. And not use render, reactivity solution, because reactivity is something that's portable. Like you've seen people go, oh, I can take this reactive system and then I can like change my render and move it across. This is a place where we have a natural divide where we can switch our frameworks if we want to, so to speak, and we can put our logic. But in a sense, the reactivity becomes the framework at that point. And that's sort of the realization that led to a lot of stuff in Solid, because I was like, there's no way to be completely, what's the term, like not decoupled, but like completely free of any kind of lock-in. And it's interesting because, you know, every time there's a potential to see the similarities, there's this desire to kind of go, okay, well, maybe we can all join in and do the same thing, right? But I mean, I was talking about Dan and docs, right? I'm going to jump to another Dan quote. We really like consistency. I posted this like a year and a half ago, and essentially, I took this React code, rewrote it in four frameworks, and they all console logged here a different thing. So, as much as I would love that reactivity to be all the same, there's clearly differences. And this isn't just a pure rendering thing. This comes down to the mechanics of how reactivity works, how it updates, like how like expectations on batching, timing. Yeah, we've got some comments in here. Yeah, I mean, I hope everyone appreciates React. React is great. React changed my mindset completely, which is kind of funny because, you know, people expect me to be like, especially with Solid's positioning and stuff, everyone's like, oh, you're the anti-React or all that. It's like, no. React completely affected my thinking in terms of values, in terms of reactive libraries. I mean, if it wasn't for React, Solid might not exist. And I don't mean that from a technology standpoint, because we do completely different things, but it's more that I might have just been like, yeah, Vue is fine or Svelte is fine. Like React's the reason why, like I thought that there was an area, a zone that is not like Vue, not like Svelte, but has that technology, and those kind of technologies. And actually, because of this crazy unexpected marriage, we can do stuff that the others can't. So it's like and like, as I said, Solid today is just the beginning, right? I don't want to get too wax poetic about, you know, whatever, but, you know, I watched the Quick stream yesterday and I was like, okay, this is a little Quick heavy. I'm not going to be too Solid heavy here, but the potential of the stuff Quick is doing is only accelerated by the potential of the stuff that we're doing with Solid in terms of the fine grain and the reactivity. This zone is still very much only at the beginning of being tapped. I wish I had mods. What can I do? Put user in timeout. Done. Thanks. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a question there, right? But do you know what I have to say about this? I see, this is a funny thing, because I felt like this throughout my career, because I worked, some of you guys know, I worked at .NET, right? through the 2000s. I worked in Microsoft shops. That's how I got into Knockout. Kind of makes sense. And the amount of documentation, MDN, the quality there, the complexity there of like ASP.NET and the whole thing. In my mind, I call it the dark ages these days, but in my mind, things have gone so convoluted, so complicated that it required like a book of docs, and it was too much. And that's why when I found Knockout, I was just like, let's just toss away this whole thing. Let's start over. And sometimes I have concerns that we're getting there again today with SSR solutions. And I think the fueling on documentation is that. I think when React was just a simple library, and Sol's kind of got that simple kind of, primitive kind of thing. You document, but then people can explore their own patterns and they can go. Once you throw SSR in, it's like never simple, at least with the current mental model and stuff that we're trying to achieve, and the build and the config and everything gets really, really complicated. And then suddenly now you're writing textbooks. And when I first saw Next.js, that was my impression. I was like, okay, this is the beginning of the end, right? I mean, it's just where I sit. It's funny. I know people love Next.js, but like I was very resistant to going back there again. It's funny because I'm there now, but it's no surprise to me. Svelte to Svelte kit. Suddenly the documentation, the thing. The truth of the matter is, if the tooling can keep up, maybe we can keep this running a bit longer, right? Things like the Stack Blitz, web container thing, development environments, tutorials. If we can complete that story, maybe we can still cover the gap. But it has always concerned me when that level of complexity gets to that level, because I feel like it's like the breaking point and start over again. And the thing is, but we haven't really been able to break out of it completely. I don't like, we tried to simplify in different ways. Like Svelte kind of goes, okay, let's simplify the interface. You're just like using some JavaScript variables. But like, we all know that isn't actually simple. It's actually incredibly complicated, right? But it gives that perception. But at a certain point, you're going to poke holes in it, and you're going to like discover the lie, so to speak. Not that like it's actual lie, but you know what I mean? Like, we try these ways to circle around with abstraction, essentially, to alleviate this. And this is an interesting one, because the effects make perfect sense from the way React works, and it keeps the model and it's clean, but it is there's like a mental impedance here. People just, and it's really hard to explain this from a React perspective. And when you're writing docs, when you're working on a engineering solution like this, so it's kind of on the R&D side, you always hope that at a certain point you get that moment of clarity, like that essentially, like maybe it's not chiseled out yet, but it happens enough times that you can be like, okay, we got there. Like I kind of had an idea, and then I was on the right path, and things suddenly just started falling in my lap, and suddenly I'm there. And it happened to me with Solid Switching Point. Like things all suddenly lined up. I'm like, oh, that decision there made sense. That made sense. That one's a little off. Let's tweak it. And then everything just comes together, and you're like, this is greater than the sum of the pieces. And I feel like the hope is that this complete story is just going to come together really nicely. Like use event is, suddenly alleviating that pressure on use effect. And you know what I mean? Like it kind of ties it together in a way that it makes it clear. Maybe you figure out the perfect way to explain it in the docs. I think that's the hope, but we don't always know. And I think that's the hardest part to be in, because it's more than any one of us can figure out. The amount of R&D in UI, we're crowdsourcing it a little bit. Obviously we can dog food through large companies when we have that ability, but we don't know everything. There's too many use cases in the web. So this is like a long-running experiment on the front-end side from my perspective. So it's a tricky problem. So yeah, you can kind of understand why this has been so hard to document, but it's hard to standardize. That's what this thing's on my screen for, right? I'm actually writing an article right now about this. It's been like a month since I wrote an article. I think the last one I did was about like different rendering patterns in the web. I'm talking about the cost of consistency here. This is not an easy thing to reconcile on. And maybe there is a right solution, but I think these are very long tails. I don't have the tweet on my fingertips, but at one point, Swix, Sean Wang or whatever, kind of made a comment, like he listened to one of my podcasts and he made a comment. He's like, it's really unfortunate that, new frameworks like Solid come out and then they can't leverage what React has done. So we have to start over again and rewrite all the components and do all that. And, basically going like, they basically don't stand a chance. And it's funny. I missed the initial thing there and Dan Abramoff replied himself and he was like, no, like, don't look at it like that. Like, sometimes you don't want to take on those things, like every so many years there's a rewrite and there's things swing the other way. It's good that some sides you want to increment and you want to build on and you want to improve, but sometimes it's good to just start from the ground up and take that new knowledge and find a new place. And it was funny because it wasn't, I didn't view it as I thought it was kind of more of attack against Solid than React, but Dan was there right away to kind of clarify that. And I hold that too. Like React and Solid, for example, are doing very, very different things. And it's a good thing. And it's good that they're incompatible to a certain degree. I have a weird perspective on that, and you guys can debate or argue with me about that, but it's kind of, it's okay to kind of back multiple horses, try different things. And we're in this very long running experiment from where I'm concerned. Okay, what do we got here? To be fair to you, panel. Okay, yeah, good. Okay, now this is you guys coming in with the hard hitters. These are good questions, right? Like, I kind of lament a bit. I think where was I? I was which one was it? Was it here? Let me kind of back into my stream because I was lamenting about benchmarking and stuff. Where was it? I'm not going to find it right now. That's my luck. Yeah, never mind. Forget about my screen here. But essentially, Lighthouse, they're working on metrics, but I think a lot of the push right now on the SSR side is because e-commerce is big money, is because people want to get into it. Things like Hydrogen is like, okay, React and Shopify, e-commerce, people want to move to these patterns. They want the performance. And I think that our metrics right now are improving, but they're still kind of somewhat basic. And it means that like kind of cheating the JavaScript by lazy loading it and like tricks like that, things to get those numbers really positively impact. I don't know if they actually positively impact the user as much. We're gonna have to use real metrics like I was talking about earlier, but I do think it's part of it. And then when you have everyone building those apps, you need the documentation and it's just like this long chain. But maybe it's just, this is what we've always wanted. We wanted the unified model of the web, we want we want to have our cake and eat it too. It's our baker cake and eat it too. It's like the trade-offs, right? Obviously, but we want all the trade-offs. Yes, this is a good point. Yeah, no, this is good. I was hoping putting it on the screen would do it, but you're right. I probably should read it out loud. Yes, I will read the question out loud before answering it. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, so what else has been going on? Yeah, we were here. God, sorry, this is just funny. This isn't really worth it much of anything. I just love the fact that senior devs sometimes are the absolute worst, even when they try not to be. This tweet was funny, but it's kind of off topic. Yeah, and there I posted a talk. Okay, let's move on here. Bun, yes, Bun. I've been following Bun for a while now, and Jared has been doing incredible things on the performance side, and people in our community started reaching out to do compilation with Bun, and that's what got my thing. I was like, oh wow. I watched ES Build kind of come up, but ES Build didn't give us custom AST. We can do much there. And SWC, it's like on the list for like, we're going to move this all compiler to SWC. But it's like, okay, well, why SWC if we can do Bun? And then Jared went and he made a basic version of DOM expressions, solids compiler in Bun. So you can actually do some really basic stuff, maybe not much more than a counter app, but you can use solid in Bun. He actually made the compiler, which he did on his own. He just was like, yeah, I'm going to do that for an afternoon, which is insane. I'm going to work with him a bit more and kind of standardize the output on it a bit so we can get there. I think that's an effort that we should definitely invest in. But in general, Bun is just like kicking up a storm right now because like, let's see if I can find it here. He finally released it. It's been over a year, and I was pretty excited the other day. I was like, oh, Solid got 20,000 stars on GitHub. Yay, right? Congratulations, right? I'm pretty sure Bun's going to have 20,000 stars on GitHub within like 2 days. Like if you've ever seen the amount of interest here is unprecedented. It's like their star graph is like a brick wall. It's like, okay, a couple hundred, maybe 1,000. Okay, we get to about 2,000 stars, and then it's like 20,000. So why is everyone talking about Bun? I have a couple of theories about this. First of all, Jared's been doing amazing work, doing amazing demo for years, and people have just been waiting for that 1.0. Everyone knows, they've been hovering. They're like, okay, when is it coming? When is it coming, right? But the other interesting thing is, wouldn't it be great just to basically use a lot of stuff that you've always used? You continue to use Next and then just have it faster. Like Bun attacks things at such a low level that it feels like you as the developer don't need to worry about it. It's just faster. And people are losing it over it because he knows his stuff. He's super low level. And he keeps on pushing the boundaries. As I said, I feel a certain kinship there because like he goes, okay, well, what's slow? Like he acknowledges when stuff he has is slower than a node, but he's like, okay, this is slower node, then let's fix that. And it's just every little piece, making it more optimal and to the point that hopefully that the whole thing together. And Bun might have started as a bundler or something, but he's a runtime. He's doing everything. So he commented that he does like 90 hours a week, and that's what he's been doing. I guess good on you for doing that. I think now that he has users, that's when like open source. I think that's when things really change, right? When you're by so if you're interested in Bun, really into it, get into it more. Go help him. I know his issues are going to burst in like momentarily. I think I looked. I think he had like, maybe like, a few dozen open issues. Then like 5 days ago, it's just like, hundreds. Like this is incredibly fast adoption. This is moving very fast. Yeah, this is super exciting. I want to play with it. This wasn't the right week because I've been away till Wednesday. I didn't get to test anything. But yes, I think Bun is super, super exciting. It's part of that framework conversation that we've been having, our sort of runtime conversation we've been having. And I've talked to Jared a few times, and like it's hard not to expect even greater things from Bun in the future. So yeah, it is a big deal. Yeah, after the Bun announcement, it's hard to follow that one, but I got a couple more things before we move on to Fresh. Tanner Lindsley. Earlier I was talking about how hard it is to standardize on like a single technology. It's like the XKCD comic about standards. Like, why can't we just all work together and produce this thing? And it's like, we have 14 standards, and then it's like new 15th standard. Like, we all know that. But, I've had this problem with web components, being the creator of more frameworks. Like, it doesn't consolidate, it actually makes more frameworks and whatnot. Tanner has been working on framework agnostic libraries, and he's taken the opposite approach. I absolutely love it because I think it was in here. Someone was asking him about web components and about like how how he managed to do this. And he made some, yeah. What was the most important thing in making this universal? Web components? And Tanner's like, more like the lack of components. I love this response because I think does he elaborate? Yeah, no, he doesn't. Okay, that's fine. I'll elaborate for him. Right. This is like the opposite kind of tick, right? This is the thing. People go, oh well, we need a component that we can use in every system, but the problem is components have execution behavior, expectations. I know this. Solid, like whenever people come up with a universal solution, it never works for Solid. Like never, ever, ever, ever works for Solid because people expect things to re-render, and that's something we don't do. And that was one of my initial concerns, like porting Solid to Remix, for example. But this is cool because he's going, okay, the fundamentals here are the change model. So as long as I can drive your components, and I'm fine. So basically headless. So instead of worrying about the packaging and like that interface, he just worries on the change. I mean, this is sort of like a reactive thinking. He at one point, Tanner was actually looking at using Solid for his underlying reactivity that would work in all the frameworks. And he was getting stuck on something. And the only piece he was really missing was kind of a, what do we call the lazy memos? It's, but not like lazy in a view sort of way, but more in like a, it marks itself as stale, but doesn't do the work until you request it kind of imperatively. And this is a pattern you'll never find in a reactive library because it already kind of manages things. But if you're trying to interface a reactive library with something like React or something that's top down, you want to be reactive, but you want to push the work into their work cycle. As it turned out, Tanner was in the end. I think Tanner was like, okay, I'm just going to keep this even simpler. So he kind of didn't go that way. But I think it's funny to point out that the best approach to universal components is not components. I just wanted to that's what stuck out to me. Someone mentions here that isn't the builder team work on something similar to Tanstack with mitosis? Yeah. Yeah, mitosis is really cool. If I haven't talked about it before, and of course I'm going to think it's cool because it was based on Solid. The JSX transformer originally was called JSX Lite and was based on Solid, and then slowly over time they kind of added more React semantics to make it closer. But it added more holes because, as you know, components React don't render once, and the syntax suggestions from mitosis would. But you can't do early returns and stuff. But yeah, this is an interesting one, right? At the beginning, I was pretty skeptical, right? Because I was thinking, well, you saw the thing about all the different behavior. How does mitosis account for that? And it can't completely, and I think that's okay. It probably gets close enough. But the challenge is all the outputs are a little bit different. The key insight from mitosis to get is that with a reactive system, you can drive any other renderer. That's the universal thing. It's like what Tanner is doing here to a certain degree. It's not the component model, it's the change model that could be. So I mean, from that perspective, perhaps Yehuda's desire for universal reactivity is a noble one, but essentially you can, like, we have something called React Solid State. There's also MobX. You have the ability to drive React in a way that looks kind of similar to Solid. Sure, components re-render, but you can kind of time it and write the logic in a way so you could basically port something that looks like Solid and have it work in React. Kind of shed the re-render mentality of the component, even though the components do actually re-render in the background. Mitosis kind of leverages that, so it can port stuff to Svelte, and it just uses the fact that reactivity has those three primitives. But this might be a different approach. I'm still more skeptical of this compared to Tanstack's approach, which is just focused purely on the change model, because mitosis for the component libraries that don't congruently fit with its model is always going to have a little bit overhead over the native version. I can't say that with 100% certainty, but that's my hunch, especially when you consider things like React, which aren't really statically analyzable. as readily. I mean, it's interesting. You don't have to worry about that from the mitosis side, because the code you write with mitosis is statically analyzable. It's similar to Svelte or Solid or whatever. It's reactive. But when you think of the ideal patterns on the React side, it's harder to do that mapping, adding refs for things that aren't refs, taking into consideration the code that reruns over and over again. It is an easier problem than, say, solving the React compiler problem in the way that people originally thought they would. I think what React is doing with React Forget is completely doable, but I know I'm being a bit vague here. We'll see. Mitosis is still on the R&D side for me. I'm pretty stoked on the tan stack thing, because I know for sure this is going to be viable, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a certain level, simple components. The thing is, mitosis isn't going to take a really advanced React library and suddenly make it work in every framework. In theory, if you could work on the mitosis framework, again, this is the standards problem again, right? Mitosis is the new framework. If you can build it towards the mitosis and get fairly consistent across the frameworks, you'd probably be okay. But it's investing in another framework, essentially. All right. Yeah. But yeah, no, Tanner's been doing awesome work, and I just wanted to call that out because he's been able to figure out how to make it small, make it fast. I'm super excited about this. I hope Tanner has the ability to do more and more. I mean, we're seeing a lot of Jared, Tanner, like kind of individual maintainers who've accomplished amazing things, and our concern as a community mostly should be is how sustainable that is. I think it's hard. I speak from personal experience. I think it's hard. I'm very stoked to have Netlify's backing to be able to kind of facilitate what I do. But and Tanner has his startups and whatnot. But at a certain point, like it's a lot. So at least for now, I'm going to keep on celebrating the successes, and I hope everyone's in good mental health and doing all that they need to get done, for themselves as well as for the frameworks. That they're doing amazing work. Yeah. I caught up mostly. Oh yeah, I've been playing D&D. That's fun. But yeah, the routing stream, I don't know if I have a ton to say about that. Let me just finish up the bookmarks here. Yeah, okay. Last couple thoughts before we move to Fresh, okay? And this is related to actually what we were just talking about with Tanner and Jared. It's funny how this all kind of lines up. The trick is to make your personal projects into jobs. Right. This is about how do we sustain open source, right? This is a big topic. I actually talked to Tanner for like an hour and a half just in Twitter DMs, like just back and forth, talking about like how we can different models. It's tricky. Talked to Theo a lot about this too. I mean, he's obviously runs a startup, Ping, which does great, amazing quality guests on for video streams and whatnot. And we use that for the D&D stream that I'm on. But like, this is not for everyone. I think someone mentioned this, but it was like coding for 30 minutes on your day job, coding on for your personal project. It takes something there, right? And I wrote here, it seems easy for someone in my position to say so, but like I agree. I think once I found the opportunity to work on the projects that I was passionate about, it just unlocked me. Like it just like I got excited about development. I wanted to do more. I became a passion into its own, and it's kind of crazy because, like, as I said, it might not be everyone's thing, but like I found more opportunities, and it just kept on snowballing, right? It was like because of my work on Solid, which I did in my own time, just something I was like, oh, maybe I'll do this in my startup, but we didn't end up using it. I ended up catching the attention of the guys from eBay, and then I started working at Marco, which I learned incredible stuff from those guys. They are way ahead of the curve on the server rendering side. And then, today I'm at Netlify. This progression and opportunities, and you know, we're all launched from passion and desire and finding that motivation. And for me, that was because it's my own stuff. I don't know where everyone, I found as an engineering manager, everyone finds their motivation in different places. And I don't think this is for everyone. You know, some people care a lot about the end customer, seeing their joy. Some people care about solving the hardest problems. Everyone has their own kind of makeup, but I will say, if you find that motivation, I mean, this is so obvious again, what I'm saying, you'll be more likely to be happy with what you're doing, right? Like you'll find more of that satisfaction. And as I started typing this, I was like, oh man, I can't put this in a tweet because it's just too much, right? But like, this has been amazing for me, but I don't know. I think there's the whole other side too, where if programming and coding isn't like, and solving certain types of problems, depending on what things are something that you enjoy but aren't like your passion, then like you shouldn't feel pressured by this kind of scenario. There's this crazy duality. You go from one side where you have people, as like Jared, working 90 hours a week, right? If I didn't have family and kids, I might be working 90 hours a week, I feel like. I just enjoy it that much, but I also enjoy other things. So it's interesting. But if you do have the chance, maybe give something a try at a trial thing if it makes sense for you. I'm just saying, working on this stuff, it's been amazing for me. I'm passionate about money. Oh man. Yep. I missed out on a motivation, but money is another one. So definitely, if that's what works for you. Yeah. And getting involved in open source in general is good if you can manage it. It just doesn't matter what it is. I remember I was talking to some people at eBay who were really bummed about having to use Marco at eBay. They're worried to hurt their career prospects, that basically we were sabotaging their career because they weren't using React. And especially, I think, on the junior side, this is a real concern. And it's hard. As I told you about, sometimes senior engineers being kind of infuriating, like in that other tweet there, because they can only speak anecdotally about their experience and how all the knowledge is transferable and whatnot. But I still believe it. It just, I do also know that React on your resume is worth a lot. So what I told them was, I was like, well, why don't you do some open source? If you want to commit your manager, if you want to do some stuff and you're tired with the market you're doing, contribute. I mean, that's the exact opposite thing they wanted to hear. But you don't need to use React to do open source. I mean, obviously, I'm talking about Redwood, so this is probably like a terrible example because Redwood does use React. But I'm just saying, like, getting involved, you know, and it doesn't have to be in your own time. Sometimes you can work this into your work thing. Is beneficial in general. It's a good experience. Yeah. OSS sustainability has been an issue for way too long. Companies hiring OSS devs is a dual-edged sword right now. Yeah. It's interesting. I went through this struggle with when I was deciding what to do with Solid. And I mean, that's worth conversation all on its own, but it might take us a little while to get through all that. But essentially, you have the scenarios like React, where you're like the Meta framework, or, you know, Angular, Google. And then you have scenarios like the Vercel and what Netlify are doing, where they kind of letting open source be a little bit more open. But like, then you look at it and you find people like Evan Yu from Vue, and you're just like, man, that guy figured it out. Like, he's somehow weaved through everything and stayed independent and just does his thing. So there's always a trade-off, right? Like, obviously, when you work for a team, you have dedicated resources that they will pay into it, but you kind of maybe lose a bit of that ownership. You know, the governance model might be a little different. When you're working for a company and they're just hiring lone guns like myself or Rich Harris or, you know, Jared Palmer, whoever, Sebastian Bakwaje, or if I say his name wrong, so I apologize. The problem is, you're paying the one person, you're not paying the whole team. So then you might still have a hard time. You still have to rely on the community of open source. You know, like, there's more to Svelte than Rich Harris, right? Rich has a job. but there, Ben McCann, like there's a lot of people involved in those projects, right? And it's still a tricky. Like that helps a bit, but it's still tricky, right? So, Tanner was talking about corporate sponsorship, almost like a branding thing, like almost like selling a product, just for like good association. And I was like, I don't know, does it feel authentic? Does it feel, if like, or does it feel like selling out? I think this is there. I kind of said there's something sort of punk rock about open source. I don't know if that's getting lost in this kind of corporate buying it up landscape, but there's a certain group, thinking that won't think open source needs to stay completely free, for example, and can't accept corporate money. And I think this is a topic that I can't step in right now. It's too big. Oh man. Do you have any tips to get started with OSS? Yeah, sure. It's so funny because it's kind of tricky at first, right? Because I've had people come in, they're like, "Oh, how can I get started?" And they go, "I want to get started. I want to be a contributor." So I'm like, "That's great. That's great. That's great." But first, why don't we just build something, right? Like just not build something. Why don't you use something? Start by just using the project and seeing if it works for you in something like just. I know that's not always applicable, but it really, I think with open source, it usually starts with finding a bug or trying something and reading the docs. And when I say bug, I mean bug in the software, bug in the documents, some place that like the experience wasn't as smooth as you'd want. And it starts small from there. People kind of laugh about all those typo things. I mean, if people try and correct things that aren't wrong, then yeah, I mean, it's kind of annoying. But most of the time when I have typos, if you do it in a tasteful way, I think that's that's great. Maybe some people get annoyed, but I don't. I think if you find a project you like and start getting involved in the community, find any frictions you have to using it and kind of building on that. That's a great way to get started in open source. Who's this Theo guy? Oh man, talked about Theo enough in the stream already. Oh, he's showing up too. Really like the media. Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, sure. I'll give you. I'll throw this out here. If you aren't familiar with Create T3 app, as you all know, Theo's pretty vocal. Has opinions. Has a lot of experience using Next and kind of the technologies around that. So he's been talking for a long time. He kept on seeing people get stuck, and he's kind of come up with his opinion of like the right pieces that go together in a modular way. If you watch my stream, you know what I'm talking about. So, to my understanding, I might not be completely correct here. The community around his streams and his Discord decided like, okay, let's just actually make this into a project, and they just kind of took it on themselves. Like Theo's busy building his company, and they're just like, let's make the stack, and they basically built a meta framework. Like it's just been growing and growing and growing. I think that it has over 2,000 stars on GitHub now. It's just been growing huge. A very organic place, like not like a planned thing, more just like patterns that make sense. The pragmatic React framework. 3K now. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, I think it's really cool because like, I mean, I'm coming from the opposite side of the spectrum with Solid. I build it myself. You build it, they will come. And you're like, okay, well, they're slowly coming in. Going to build more. Some more people come and kind of get there, and then I find myself building a meta framework. This is like the opposite side where like it's like coming from a place of like finding all those pieces that already exist, and then is this kind of like the community just built the meta framework. I think it's really awesome to see this. it's almost, I think the tooling and stuff around it's getting so much easier. I mean, Next as a basis obviously makes a huge amount of sense, but even on the Vite side, we kind of see this a little bit where you can essentially, if you like want to kind of make things in the image that you like, you can go and do that, and you don't need to rely on somebody from some company to build it for you. Oh man, yeah. I think Anthony's in here too. I'm not going to have you guys go at it in chat though, but it's kind of funny because it's an opinionated React stack versus another opinionated React stack, so the comparison's going to be made, right? But I think it's interesting. I like the dedication to TypeScript in Create T3 app. I haven't tried it. I haven't tried Redwood. I haven't looked at Redwood practically at all, so maybe that should go on my list of things. But I think it's definitely interesting to kind of see that. Like, this is the power of open source, and yeah, this is why we do what we do. This is why it exists. It's just like, as I said, sustaining it is like this other side of the puzzle. So this is I think things are getting better. So we'll just see where this all lands. I said, when I've talked to maintainers and stuff, I feel like we're getting closer to being able to do stuff, that we wanted to. There's still a gap, and at a certain level, maybe not a level that I have gotten to myself, like when you get into like where Tanner is and stuff, it's like Tanner should be able to make really good money off his efforts, especially with the framework agnostic stuff. And it's just a matter of figuring out the best models for that, right? Like, I told you, this is too big of a topic. I don't want to get into it. Like, talk about VC money and all that stuff. Okay. We're like at an hour, so I want to curb this part really quick here, but I got like just a couple more that just came up in the last couple days. Let's talk a little quick. Mishko Hevery actually put this out there talking about the web, and he decided to put the gens, and this is very similar to actually what Igor Miner had in his article. I'm not surprised these guys are basically on the same page, given they worked together for like a decade on Angular. But I think I only had one comment here because obviously he's positioning Quick as the future of the web, and I'm not going to disagree on that point. I just think the alignments are a little interesting because someone asked him, well, what's the difference between Gen 1 and Gen 2, right? Like, where do you draw that line? And yeah, Gen 2, just a question DX, it comes Gen 2, your whole app is rendered the components. To me, it was the transition to the component architecture. And my only comment on this whole thing is I actually think Gen 2 to Gen 3 isn't resumable. That's a symptom. That's like a side effect. I think the move from Gen 2 to Gen 3 is recognizing that components aren't the runtime model. Essentially, we went for static, then we added bits of JavaScript, then we made components. I think the unlock between Gen 2 and Gen 3 is that components can still exist, but components are not a runtime construct, like as they are in React or Svelte or Vue today. Essentially, the reason that resumable is possible is because the components can be breaking down into smaller pieces. In the case of Quick, it's like they separate the event handlers from the Vue code from the component logic. In the case of Marco, it's along the reactive graph, kind of similar to Solid, but compiled. I don't think it necessarily has to be compiled, but the thing that unlocks Gen 3 and makes resumable possibility is basically the return to finer grained things. Like jQuery and Mood tools were kind of finer grained. It's that return while keeping the component DX. That's my opinion. Resumable is just a side effect. Just wanted to make that note. Okay. And what else do we got here? On a similar note, I'm pretty strongly in the component should never do data loading camp. Turns out MVC was right. I think we're talking about the same sort of thing here as what I was just talking about. From a performance angle, this is true. You know that you need to hoist out your data loading. If you do cascade, you get waterfalls. But all the work we see going on is so that we can build this closer to the components and then have it hoist automatically, whether it's relay, whether it's remix loaders, get server-side props, stuff we're doing solid start, and it's a bit kind of like where for, islands architecture, we're trying to get the DX and partial hydration. We're trying to get the DX of these component frameworks, but then have them be partial. So, I just want to throw it out there. It's the spiral thing, right? People talk about we're not swinging all the way back. It's Gen 2 was like a DX explosion. Now we're trying to figure out how to keep what we like about that while addressing the performance aspects. That's it. This is all about performance. Why did I bookmark this? Yeah, we can leave this for another day. It was just a funny example where in React you had to write like half a page of code, and Solid it's a one-liner. But I mean, people who use Solid should be pretty used to that by now. So let's move on. Okay, cool. Well, some of you are still here. It's been an hour. I think we should move on. Yeah, some comments about dedication to TypeScript. Yeah, TypeScript is awesome. I've been doing a lot of work with improved types. TypeScript's also like the thing that I wrestle with the most, but yeah. I could do that, Theo. You could also have me on your stream. We can work both ways. And Theo actually ran away for a call for 10 to 15 minutes, which is fine. No one believes me. Yeah, let's freshen things up. I agree. Let's freshen things up. Let's get. I'm just a little bit behind the scenes. Let's get started with Fresh, right? I'm just gonna put this banner up. Let's close down the good old Twitter, and let's look at Fresh. Love this landing page. Has a cute little animation here. Has a guy drinking his drink. And mostly, they're dog fooding their own stuff. Fresh.deno.dev. You know that this is done in their own site. And this counter, I'm sure this page actually, let's check. I'm pretty sure this page uses Fresh itself. And then, yeah, we're going to look at this more in a minute, but we got some serialized data props. Start is probably for the 3. Let me blow that up a little bit. Yeah, it looks like we got the serialized data for just this island prop. Yeah, this is using Fresh right here. They're using their own thing. It's kind of funny. I was actually on a framework that had a counter that worked, and it didn't actually use their technology on their main page, which is kind of like bonkers to me because, it was interesting because I was like trying to find the code for it, and it wasn't there. Anyways, that's a side. Okay, so let's get started with Fresh. I got the docs here. I have to admit, I'm not quite as prepared for this one as some of the other ones. I literally came back 2 days ago, and I was like originally going to do a stream about Solid Router, which is what we're probably going to do next week. We've been doing a lot of work with Solid Router, and I'm really excited to share that. But I was like, okay, well, I want to talk about Fresh because I've been seeing a lot of talk about Fresh. And it's basically, for those who aren't familiar, it's a pre-act islands framework. So it's kind of like think Astro, but like everything's JSX. And I think that's really cool. The second kind of cool selling point is that because it's Deno and everything's kind of like automated TypeScript and automated TSX compilation and all that, there's no like noticeable build step. You just kind of run Deno start, you just deploy it, and everything just works. In the background, things are building, things are working. So like for me, that's my like kind of dubious part of it. Like I don't really care about that at all. Part of it could be a bias because with Solid we need a custom compilation. So like when I see solutions that don't do custom compilation, I'm just like whatever. But on the other hand, like you get started with Beat. Is it that different? But this does offer on demand, like on request building, which is something that we actually had at eBay with the Lasso bundler. And people are like, well, where do you actually want this capability? Well, at eBay's case, internationalization was actually really good. Like sometimes you don't need to generate all the languages, ahead of time. You can make your Webpack builds take like hours. So this kind of on-demand lazy thing and serving requests and then caching it, works pretty well. So I mean, I can see the balance there. So I think for us, I think what we should kind of take in is the experience. Like this is a DX thing mostly, and just kind of feel like, oh, is this that different than just loading a template pre-built with Vite? I don't know. We'll find out. So yeah, let's kind of get started here, right? Introduction, no build steps, 0 config necessary. Okay, sure. JIT rendering on the edge, sure. Tiny and fast and client JavaScript is required by the framework. Yeah, okay, so it's a 0 default framework because it's using islands. Optional client side, yeah, sure. Highly resilient because of progressive enhancement and use of native browser features, sure. TypeScript out of the box, yep. File system running on Linux. Okay, yeah, so sounds pretty standard. Let's see. Okay, I've got Deno installed and Deno Deploy installed. So I think our first step is going to be creating a project here. Okay, this is the first thing that's going to different. Okay. Well, I mean, it's from a URL, which is kind of cool. Okay, let's copy this and kind of get that going. Do I have a new window for this? Let's see here. Oh yeah, get started. Okay, so let's take a look here. Okay, so actually, I'll put this in a folder that I can find it again. Okay, so let's make our project, and as you guys know, we're gonna make a Hackernews demo. That's what we do here. So we're gonna make fresh Hackernews, right? All right. So do I want Twind? No, I don't care about Twind. Okay. Do I use VS Code? Yes, I do. Okay, sweet. Okay, let's open that up. That's pretty fast. I mean, let me see, where is it? Development, examples, and fresh Hackernews. Okay, beautiful. Okay, what are we looking at here? If you are familiar with Fresh at all, you probably want to feel free to chat up in the chat to help me along the way, because as I said, I actually haven't built this yet. But I'm leaning on the fact that it's pre-act so that we can pretty much port over like the next or the remix. Well, not the next, because they have that. I think they fixed it, but my example has the nested anchors, which took me forever to hand port, but I'm pretty sure we can port like the remix example over. Yeah, you guys are gonna have tons of fun with the puns. Yeah, but I like it because it is the. Sorry, I didn't read the question. Isn't the Hackernews demo pretty old, as in not fresh right now? Yes, it's still one of the easiest examples to come up with recursive partial hydration, which is one of my favorite things to see. Again, I don't know if this actually works in fresh, but I'm gonna assume it does, and we're gonna see how this goes, right? So this is what we generated. We got some VS Code, which I think, yeah, some Deno stuff. I don't know. And Deno JSON. Yeah, this is kind of interesting. So like import map, right off, and this is so this is kind of like package.json, except no dependencies. So the import map is kind of handling dependencies from my understanding, because it's probably using just like the browser style import match. So we have this Deno run command, which seems fine, and then import map will tell us where to get preact from. And this way we can still import stuff like the way we normally import it, and they go to the URLs in the background, okay? And then we have a dev TS, which is our dev server, presumably. Wait, dev. And then we have main TS, which is our start server. Okay, cool. And then they're just telling me run Deno task start. Okay, so like npm run. Okay, that's cool. I've used Deno deploy before. I haven't used fresh or Deno development directly. So let's see here. Okay, so what do we got here for a setup? We have static folder. Okay, unsurprising. We have routes and islands. Okay, so routes are following Next.js convention, it looks like. Beautiful. And an API route. Interesting. I wonder if API as a folder is special. We'll check the docs for that. Okay, everything else is Preact style. Right. Okay. And then the other interesting thing is this islands. So, and the islands is just a counter. Okay. That's cool. Okay, so and they have an is browser. That's good to know in the runtime. So I think the key thing here is Fresh, and this is actually I kind of like this. I think this is a pretty smart approach. Fresh uses the routes folder, like pages folder, but this whole folder is static. So they're like this entry point, everything from routes is sort of server rendered, no JavaScript, and then the islands folder they make all the client side bundle entries. If you're on the server, it'll just import and run it on the server, but then it'll make the separate entries here. So instead of using like .server, they're just like put in the islands folder. And then the rest of this is actually all just server only. So I'm getting a sort of Astro feel here, right? Where except it's JSX essentially, where most of the code you're writing is just server only, and then you just happen to put some stuff that you want interactive over here. Right. So yeah, I think I can work with this pretty easily. It looks like it's got that. Let's just make sure it runs. What is it? Task start. 48,000. Okay, let's do this. Localhost 8,000. And our counter starts at 3, which seems to be the magic number for Fresh, and it just updates. Okay, cool. So let's just jump into it then. I got the docs ready, right? So we can look here. We got routes, we got routing. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I guess let's look at the API route. I want to see something. Because I wonder if I have fetch at my disposal. I guess we'll find out. We don't actually need an API route per se for what we're doing here, because we're going to, I mean, we don't need to serve something externally. The server is going to do all the data fetching for us for our Hackernews example. Okay, that's good to know. Sorry, someone's mentioning that the Hackernews has been sporadically down all day. Okay. Okay, so let's stop this for a second, or we can start it. I want to clean out the folder here. Const handler. I'm going to assume handler is special. Let me look at the pages. Default. Yeah, okay. So default export is the component for the route, is my guess. And then I'm going to guess that handler is special. Oh, man. And probably because, yeah, request thing. Yeah, okay, cool. So I'm going to just assume handler, and this just handles API/joke. So it handles. I wonder if it differentiates between get and post. Not important for our example. Let's move on. Okay, so first thing I want to do is let's just try and port the landing page, so to speak, for Hackernews, because what we need here is, I mean, I could start here. I probably should start with the name one. Props, page props. Oh, this is kind of convenient. Just looking at this, you get it straight into the page props. But if I'm right, this should still work with Star Road, or is it like this? Interesting. Okay. Because sometimes I have problems with top level things. So this is hello. This should be this. So lower priority than name. Okay, so I actually have to delete name probably. Kind of don't want to delete it because I want to like keep a reference to it. Maybe I'll just like make a folder and just call it garbage. Just it's the one problem sometimes when you do this. You kind of like delete stuff that you want for reference later. Okay. Beautiful. Right. So the slash work though. So it's the same problem I have with Remix. Okay, that's fine. We can work around this. One of the problems I've had is some frameworks don't support top level star roads, and that's something I need for this Hackernews example. So I can add this to the list on that. Okay, so let's see, what do we want to do here? I'm gonna use Remix. I think is probably the easiest one to use as a base. Open. Examples. Remix, Hackernews, workers. That's probably the one. Okay, cool. All right. See, what you'll see with the remix example is I actually needed to have both a kind of like a dynamic route and an index route. But I guess the fun thing from remix is that we're gonna have to rename all the twos. Okay, I'm gonna try one more. Let me think of something. New window. The other one we can look at it actually is Astro. And I know that might seem funny, but Astro in certain ways is very, very, very JSX. In other ways, it is not. So I'm just gonna kind of look at this one. Let's look here. Astro. Why am I not? Astro Hackernews. My luck is this is gonna be different one than the one I'm thinking of. Okay, that's fine. Let's open that one. Beautiful. Okay, let's look here. Stories. Yeah, actually, that's a good question. My first question I should come in here is wondering is there a shared layout? Essentially, because if you notice in, I guess I could just make it myself. If there's a shared layout, I can just make it myself because this is an MPA framework, right? So yeah, I think that's the key here, right? If I was using a remix, for example, you will notice that there is a root.tsx, which has like the document and all this stuff. But here, each page is its own page. So this is going to be a little bit different, right? So essentially, yeah, but where is the, it's funny though, this starts at div still. Where is the document, so to speak? Like, where's the HTML? That's what docs are for, right? Understand. Let's take a look. Handle request, handle. Indirect violence. Is there static.html? Did I miss that? No, there is not. Okay, well, we can do a little experiment here, can't we? I can take control of it if I want, someone is saying in the chat, but where do I take control? Yeah, okay. Let's just what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a component here, and we're gonna call it layout essentially. I think these folders out here don't matter, so I can call them whatever I want. I can go like make a folder. Sorry, I'm not in garbage. Make a folder out here. Call it components, and then I can make a new file and make this file, I don't know, layout.tsx. And let's see if we can export default some kind of layout. that's thank you, Copilot. Yeah, I mean for beginning, I'm just gonna see if our div. Not even div. I don't even care honestly that much. The layout I want to get is going to be similar to the Astro layout, which we've done here before. Components, layout. Because one of the beautiful things about this is I don't actually need all the link components, right? I don't need like the links. This is all server navigated. I would love to set the title, but I'm not going to worry about that. What I actually need here is just this, right? header, and then slot, essentially. But we don't have slots. So really what we want here is just, ooh, there we go. Deno is telling me where stuff has failed already. All right, what am I doing wrong, Deno? It's because I don't have the JSX import source, probably, that all the other files have here, right? We need to do this thing. That is not why. Thank you. All right. Built with fresh. And we can link to fresh. We're gonna do that. It's fine. It's just a GitHub link. I'll worry about that later. But presumably, if we do this, props children. Maybe I should just put children, and I can be cool like everyone who else who destructures. All right, and I'm gonna have to probably learn all the TypeScripts. Oh, fragment for you need to import explicitly fragment for Preact. Okay, is it like this? Is it like this? Thank you. Beautiful. Okay. Something about named exports. It's weird. I'm so not used to using named exports. Will this work though? Just out of curiosity, if I just kind of forget the outlines here, I just want to go in my routes and I just want to kind of wrap this thing with our layout. We want to import layout from still not used to using Copilot. And put anything in here. Okay, so it still works even if TypeScript is complaining at me. Probably. Well, actually, let's see if it does still hydrate. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, okay, nice. All right, so I guess because this example just like uses static CSS, let's start getting that CSS in here. Let's just go here. Where is it? It's public. No, where did I put it in the other examples? Source styles. Okay, global CSS. Let's just copy this over. Copy global CSS. Probably just paste it in here. And then yeah, that's not the color we want. It's just I need to figure out actually how to get styles on the page. That's one thing I actually didn't check in the original example. Was there any CSS in the original example? I thought I installed the Deno extension. I just don't know what it does. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not used to tooling, so forgive me. I used CoffeeScript for like 10 years. Had no use for anything. Let me see here. Okay, so CSS. I would, if I want to put CSS on the page, I need the document. ideally. I mean, I could just import it in my layout component, I guess. I'm going to guess that works, but that, yeah. So like, I mean, this is a long shot, but let's try import. Where are we? I put it in static. I'll move it later. See if it actually does anything. He doesn't know how to deal with it. It's probably because it's thing. Head component. Yes, that's what I need. I need the head component. Okay, so Fresh has a head component. Is it documented? Let's find it. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe not documented. Okay. Create route, dynamic routes, custom handlers, fetching data, adding and directing deploy to production. We can try running down here. Running locally. Sounds good. Create a route. Sounds good. Dynamic routes, we already talked about. Custom handlers. Okay, that makes sense. So you can define gets. Okay, so this is like the API. Good. Yes, handlers get. Okay, good. Fetching data. Beautiful. Okay, I'll need this in a minute. Okay. 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 So let's look for our head component. Okay, it's in the source, which, oh, right, there's no node modules. Sorry, that's something I'm gonna have to get used to. That's fine. We can go find the code where it lives. Fresh. All right. And helpers. Nope. Let's see what we export from index here. Element node store. This is not the right fresh. Good call. Let's just go. Let's go back here. Let's go fresh. Land fresh. That one looks better. There we go. All right. So we have a dev server runtime. Okay. Well, let's see if I pick the right place. What does this export? Bundle. What does this export? Let's see, main TS seems to be the pattern instead of index TS. This is just running stuff. All right, head. Am I looking at it? Head. Head. All right. Export function head. Okay, let's see what we can do here. All right, so what we want is, let's see, is there any example where I actually installed from Maybe it's in garbage. Where's garbage? Where's $fresh? Okay, I'm gathering this is where we need to go. Something like that. Thank you, whatever completion that is. Okay. Maybe from fresh.head.ts. I'm in runtime. Just guessing my way through here. Okay. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. Let's do it. So what does head accept? Thank you, Copilot. All right. Head. Beautiful. Okay. Sweet. So we can get our title in here, and then we can get our links. Okay. So let's go back and copy what we need to from Astro. All right. So this presumably here. Interesting, but I don't care. And then this is fresh. And then what we need is just a good old, what is it, link? It's so long. Okay, and we don't want Astro purple. Good, we're making progress. We want some fresh green, right? So let me see if I can find that. I think I jotted that down earlier. Yeah, here we go. CSS. All right, that's the worst I've ever come up with for accessibility. Don't hate me on me that. We'll worry about that later. But now we can at least see that we have a fresh-based header. Yeah, clearly, when using this color, you need to use black text. We'll worry about that after. Not here for the CSS. Okay, sweet. Thanks for help from chat. I appreciate that a lot. Okay, cool. So, okay, now let's see what we can do here. Because, yeah, let's see what we can do here. Because it's funny, I wouldn't have expected Astro to be where I was going to get my main source from, but I think Astro is actually the closest. Its JSX is very similar. So let's just copy this Astro code right over. Good. Okay, no support for HTML comments. Fine. And we're missing a bunch of variables that I have declared here. And these are going to come through props and probably page props import for something from somewhere. Okay. And we're gonna send these through. We're gonna need story eventually too. Okay, cool. So let's look at how we fetch data. That's the next thing. Let's look what we fetch data. Okay. So according to the fresh docs, fetching data. And then this puts it into here. Lovely. But what's this context render user? Huh. Interesting. Yeah, we're just gonna take this one right here and just drop it right in here. So it looks like this is mostly what we want, and we want to fix up all these imports, plus we need to get our types. Let me see if I can grab my types. I don't think I did the types in Astro, but I can grab them from Remix version. Copy. All right. Not in routes. We're going to put it out here somewhere. Paste. Not. Story comment. Okay, we'll need those in a minute, though. I actually probably only put the types in the top level story thing. We want to get that from there. And then this is going to be story data null, and handler is coming from there. And okay, sweet. And then we just need to make our API calls. All right. Probably don't need this anymore, but I'll leave it for a second. I'm going to make another API folder that's on the outside. I'm just going to copy the stuff that I've been doing in the other projects over, because it's API TS. I guess we're going to find out if it looks like from that example that we have fetch on the server. So I think, oh yeah, we're in Deno. Of course we do. Some things become very easy. I'm just going to copy this one too. We'll worry about tidying up the folder structure later. We just not in here, out here, move, yeah. All right. Yeah, so then our fetching just becomes essentially this. The equivalent to whatever this is. So I'm going to move this over so we can see it side by side. Difference between a remix loader and a fresh loader. Okay. So do we need the URL to get the search parameters? I guess is the first question. Okay. What are we getting params from? Not sorry, context. Context is what I care about. Oh, it's because of this crap. I'm commented out for a minute. Context. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna have to learn how to move around in Deno. Well, actually, you know what? Let's do this the trial and error way, which is essentially, let's just call the log what we get on context and see how giant this object is. This is probably gonna happen terribly. Page is not defined, that's fine. Okay. Let's do something like this. Let's add page equals something. Now let's look what we get. Stories G. Yeah, okay. Don't necessarily see query parameters on anything here, but it looks like it's got next, so it's like a middleware setup, and then it has render. Okay, we're gonna hard lock the page for a second, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we're not gonna worry about that. We're gonna bring page back, and we're just going to actually I'll keep this commented for reference. Let's just work backwards. Okay, we're gonna go const page equals 1 type equals actually, what did that come out with? Stories. Beautiful. Okay, it's going to be stories or top, and then move this here, up here, and then we're going to oh, I see. I'm gonna have to rename it something different. That's fine. I'm gonna do something like this. We need to get fetch API. And where did I get the fetch API? Just curiosity. Where did I? Yeah. All right, and then don't do that. And then return render stories. All right, and yeah, that's that TypeScript error. I'm not gonna worry about that. All right. Oh, actually, we have the. Did I delete the wrong thing? Oh, that's funny. I didn't. It just didn't delete enough things. I'm not going to worry about this for a second because we'll worry about that later. Okay. And actually, while we're in here, let's console.log stories to make sure that we're getting them. We still have to fix a lot more of our app here. That's fine. Let's build this up a little bit. Just gonna start over again. Doc type is not valid JSON. That's interesting. All right. Did I not get to my console log? This is console log debugging. Hi. Okay. Hi again. All right, so we're getting hooked up on probably, let's see if we get here. This is always where we get hooked up though too. There's usually something around the fetching that I'm missing. Type G. All right, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Let's just make this top for now. Beautiful. Okay, yeah. It's because I was messing with stuff. Okay, cool. See, this is all our beautiful Hackernews data coming in. Okay, sweet. So now we actually need to do this. So I probably should make my props. I'm interested how it passes it through. Let's find out. Let me remove my stories console log. And let's see if it just passes it through transparently. Params, URL, data. Okay, it's under data. Beautiful. Okay, so then we know that, is this a generic? Yeah. So then which, we got getting some stuff from chat here. Response faker. That's interesting. Okay. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Sorry, I probably should have grabbed that right off the docs, right? I think it might have been in here. Although I was looking at this one specifically. Let's see if that lets me use my stories data. Okay. Cool. And then all I need here is, the funny thing is, I kind of what I actually want to do is I actually kind of want to do this. I mean, I'm assuming that I'm going to have to calculate some stuff in here. So I'm actually going to pass page and type through with the stories. And then that way, it's a little bit more complicated. It'll be stories data array. Is that stories data already an array? No, actually it's already, duh, it's already here. This is actually what we want. So data should be stories data or null, and then essentially maybe structure this further. I mean, it's gonna get angry at me from a TypeScript standpoint because I'm not like checking for errors, but I should be able to go stories type page. It doesn't. Okay, that's fine. Worry about TypeScript when it's useful. Story is not defined. Beautiful. Okay, so it actually doesn't render the story because it doesn't exist, but okay. I have probably ignored TypeScript for as long as I can possibly ignore TypeScript. Yeah, just say it's never null, and I could probably do that by doing this. I mean, I'm lying, but let's lie for a minute. And see if we can. All right, okay. Making progress. Beautiful. Thank you. All right, so now we just need a story component. All right, And I'm going to add that one in. It's going to be new file. Actually, yeah, we'll new file it. Because as much as I can just copy almost everything directly from Astro, funnily enough, we still need the, what do you call it? The wrapper kind of stuff. See, let's try a remix for this one. Story components, story component. Yeah, that looks beautiful. At least this one should be almost identical. Don't need link. And we need our Preact thing. Come up. All right, because you need to, and then, oh, where are we? Fragment. I did need fragment. Bear with me as I edit in this very small code window because I blew it up. Okay, and then the last fragment. That work? I'm missing one closing fragment. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. So, what's going on? Story still not defined. So I probably crashed something a while ago and I have to restart the server. Either that or I imported it. I haven't imported it yet. That's more likely. Import story from, stop doing that. Stop doing that. Okay, cool. Part one. All right, so we actually have to get the navigation working for real right now, but I believe, no, we need to get that, yeah, and I need to handle that route. Okay, so first thing is we can change this to story param or top, which means now when we, no, don't do that one, do any other one. When we switch between the pages, we can see our new stories. Okay, just out of curiosity, just to verify the claims here, now that we have this working, I'm in dev right now, so it might be a little bit different in dev. I just want to see what's going on with the network tab. Because this page, as you notice, there's no islands. You don't need to do anything, right? So it's literally just a page of HTML that renders on the server. And yeah, as you can see, there is just some refresh.js, which I'm gathering is for hot reloading because I'm in dev. Out of curiosity, how do you not run in dev, right? Because if I looked at the Deno JSON, there's dev TS. Okay, well, I'm gathering if I take this command and do main TS, I can do the same thing. And then, no, did I do that wrong? Oh, maybe it's like because I got watch and some other stuff on here. Yeah, Deno run main TS. It's like I put a whole bunch of extra stuff that I don't need. Sure, why not? Yeah, why not? Yeah, thank you. See, this is why Deno. Actually, I can't give them a request for that domain. This is why Deno is more secure. Reminds me of Windows Vista, but that's a good thing. I don't own that domain. I wonder if that's why that's being weird. Allow M to bypass this prompt. Let's go -- allow M. Okay, well, it's fine. You know what? We'll deploy this in a little bit, and then we'll do it for real. I was just curious because I like kind of introspecting as I go, kind of figure it out. But you know what? We can leave that to the end. I do want to continue here because I want to make an example with an island, obviously, right? So, yeah, okay. So we have our stories, and they load. Because this doesn't handle the the base route, we're going to need. Oh, that's a good question. How do you do the index route? I think I had that originally, didn't I? Main.tsx? Dash capital A? Oh, thank you. You guys in the chat are the best. Yeah, and you can see okay, there we go. It's gone. It's all gone. No, it came back. Okay. I don't know why that's there. We'll just continue going, and we'll figure this out. Okay. So, okay, we got our story params, and we have our stories loading. The only challenge we have right now on this first page is that it doesn't handle slash. And if I remember, the original example handled slash. I'm like memory fog. Was it main? Was it main TS? Was that how we handled slash? Like if I go like something simple like export default I like turn the server on first, right? I'm not remembering this. This is my memory fog here because I was the slash route we had at the very beginning before we even started. Remember, I was like putting stuff in a garbage folder so I wouldn't forget. I actually forgot what it is because in most things it would be index, right? But I feel like that's very not Deno. Oh, it is. What do you know? Some stuff's main, some stuff's index. Okay, sweet. It's index. Okay, cool. So what we actually want to do for index is basically copy this whole thing and hard code it for now. In a real app, we wouldn't do this, but this is just going to speed up the missing part. So we're just going to do this. We're going to do this, and we'll worry about everything else later. Okay. And now when we go here, at least, we actually have navigation. I'm seeing an interesting CSS flicker. I assume that's dev mode, though. We'll get there. Okay. Okay. So the reason we want to go and do pages next, right? So let's do that next. Okay. Now that we have the pattern, I'm actually more confident that I don't need this other stuff because we're going to basically just repeat this pattern again. But what's going to be interesting is we're going to essentially add some hopefully by the end we're going to add some recursive partial hydration. So the first thing I'm going to do here actually is I'm going to make the nav. Sorry, I already made the nav. I'm going to make the comment component. And we're going to do this the unoptimized way first. So I'm just like all thumbs or whatever today. And then we'll try and make the optimized version later. Okay, so unoptimized version looks like this. Actually, this is our first. Oh, this is interesting. Can I actually do this unoptimized? I mean, I obviously can, but yeah, I mean, this is an island. This is our first island, actually. So let's just move it into islands. And we need uState. And we need one types dot yes. And then all these links become ref. No, sorry. And myself anchor. And all these twos become href. And the fragments become fragments. And report from remix. Okay, cool. Yeah, what's going to be cool here is we're going to do recursive islands in a minute, but I just wanted to see if we could, because you see how the comments are in the comments. This will be the easy version of it. Hopefully, I hope we'll try some stuff here. So let's make routes, new folder, stories. I'm going to call the folder, and then I'm going to make the new file in here. It's going to be story.tsx. I think. Let's see what we do here. Story, or I guess, yeah, I'll keep the naming, rename. ID tsx. Okay. And then this page is a lot simpler than the first page. I'm going to just copy this one. Yeah, it doesn't have as much stuff. I'm going to copy this over from Remix, and we can go from there. Okay, so first of all, we don't need any of this stuff. And this is .ts. And this is capital comment .tsx. Oh, right, it's in islands. All right, and then this is .ts. Okay, and then okay, sweet. And then we use a similar setup that we used here, where we grab a parameter and we call our fetch API and call render. Actually, I just grabbed this whole thing. Okay. And this time our data is of type iStory. All right, and I do need to grab something from up here. Probably need this in the middle. And then our fetch call just becomes this. This just becomes this. And this just becomes this. And then this goes away. And then copying the same pattern here. We need something like this. There, this one, like this. And it's going to be, data is going to just be aliased to story. And then it's just going to be story. And then don't forget the preact stuff. Drop off the loader. Remove extraneous references to link and to href. I wonder where something didn't come across properly, but oh, page, it needs the layout. Do not forget the layout. The right place, yeah. And here, left layout. Oh, we just import layout from the other one. Format, document, and I have some extra thing. And that's okay. Story and oh. Wrong here. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. So yeah, this was my problem. I had the stuff in the wrong place. Okay. Sweet. Collapses. Okay. Okay. Well, this is all right. I always have to remember this. The JSX thing. There's an and in here that should be is it that one? No, I don't think it's that one. One of these conditionals in here ends up returning a 0 when there's no comments. So I think it's I'm trying to remember where it is. Just like not seeing it right now, but that's fine. It's like, let's look here. This happens only on the JSX ones, and I always forget to get to it because it's text and then it's 0. It's comment by it's got to be in the comment component. And we'll worry about that in a minute. I've seen this one a few times. The problem is when I copy it from the different sources, they all treat stuff a little bit differently. Anyways, let's worry about that in a minute. Okay, so the first thing that I'm noticing here is that when we go into the network tab, Now more than a refresh, we're getting the rest of the JavaScript in, and we get the comments. If I go back to the main page and I look here, I'm gathering I'm not going to see any sort of data serialization because there's no islands, right? But when I go into a specific story and I look in here, I'm going to see this fresh islands props, and it's going to pass in all the data for all the comments on the page. You all should be able to see this, right? And yeah, yeah, okay. So let's do something about that. That's what I want to do. I want to take this as a simple example. So the problem right now is once we enter the first comment island, the whole page essentially needs to be client side. But I'm suspecting that we won't need to do this. When you have islands, you can do some pretty smart stuff by hoisting and passing stuff through as children. There's a question in chat. Is there context render equivalent in Astro API routes? My understanding with Astro is it just literally renders the page. So like you don't have to call it. It goes down the page and it's as far as it gets. So like if you return a response, it returns a response. If you don't, it'll continue rendering the page. So essentially, you just read it top to bottom with Astro. So it doesn't really need to call it out. Okay, so anyways, oh no, I found it. It's this one, props comment.length, and length is 0. So yeah, sorry, it's this one. I'm gonna change all the rest of the stuff. All right. Because Booleans are stripped in JSX, but other stuff isn't. Okay. Cool. All right. Awesome. So we have Hackernews working on that, and now let's see if we can do something smart here. So we have our comment island, but what I actually want to do now is apply a technique that I've only so far I've been able to apply in Marco, Quick, Hydrogen, and Astro. And I want to do it here, which is our ability to do recursive partial hydration. We don't need this counter anymore. And to do that, what we're going to actually do is we're going to make our comment component actually a component and make what I call the toggle island. So, I mean, already you can see some benefits here on the network side. Like we're only loading about 7.6 kilobytes of JavaScript here, but we can do better, right? So and I think we can get rid of that big blob of data serialization. So to do that, I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to call it toggle.tsx. And I have a solid version of this. So let's port this from solid, because in my Astro version, I use solid to do the islands, and I have it right here. So let's see if I can port solid to looking component here. Okay, so we don't need that. Okay, so we're gonna make a few little changes here because we don't have that. We don't have actually hydrogen might be the easiest one to talk. You know what? Actually, let's open hydrogen. Let's open hydrogen. Let's do that. This might be the easiest way to look at this. Open development examples. Hydrogen Hackernews. Let's look at that. All right. So in Hydrogen, server client. See, toggle is the client component, and then we have this comment server component. Okay. Yeah, I think this is going to be the easiest way to go. We're going to take this toggle from there. Beautiful. Okay. And then what we're going to do is obviously grab our Preact specific top stuff. And then what we're going to do is get our fragment and use props here. Yeah, for passing prop children. You know what? Like everybody else does. Structure. Okay. And okay, so what we have here now, for people to follow to understand, is we I've taken the comment component here and I've extracted the toggling, like this thing. You see how this is recursively passing comment through, like it's comment calling comment. What we're going to do instead is put the state in the smallest possible component, which has the toggling, and then pass the server rendered static code through the layers of dynamic client components. So this will make more sense when I grab the comment server from them. So we're now gonna make a new file under components, which is comment tsx, and it's going to be a slight alteration of our existing comment component. So I'm going to be able to take most of this stuff and move it across. But instead, what we're going to do here is we're going to grab toggle from the islands folder. And I'm going to change all these to anchors, actually. And see what we're doing here? Comment calls itself still, but it wraps it in this toggle. So the only client component we actually need is here, right? So now we can get rid of stuff like use state in our comment. So it's not stateful. And 2 becomes href. And nested. And then no more fragments here. Yes, my biggest question right now is what capital P. Cool. So you can see this is actually very similar to our previous component, except now, actually, I didn't check about the dangerously set HTML. Did I do that over here? Does Preact do the dangerously set HTML thing? I guess it does because the stories were working. Okay. So, all right. Yeah. So essentially, instead of having a whole comment island, we've actually shrunk our island to just the toggle part. And the rest of this is actually going to be server now. So now, if we switch and we go here to our story and we import it from components instead of from islands. Oh no. This is what I was worried about. Let's just, I thought there was a chance this might not work, but I wanted to confirm. So the problem is it's okay. Let's see if I'm before I discount this, let's make sure that I'm not doing something stupid. Right? Yeah, let's make sure that I haven't circular type error, converting circular structure to JSON, starting at, because I'm wondering if I'm causing like a loop somehow. And okay. We can give this a minute to make sure that I'm not missing anything. You know, like this is my error. There, as I said, there was a chance that recursive partial hydration wouldn't work because this is still very, very new. But the challenge here is that I'm calling myself from the server component and passing it through a toggle, which then calls a toggle, which calls it, like they actually nest And this, as I said, what this should do is remove the need to serialize all the data. We've seen this in the other islands frameworks. I like using this case because it's basically impossible for a single page app to make this optimization, and it highlights really nicely for the performance characteristic of partial hydrated pages. Okay, so just let's double check our logic here. So we have our layout, we render our story. Our stories map over the comments first level. Okay, and we have a key on the comment ID, and we pass in the comment. Okay. To be fair, I probably am missing a key. No, I do have the key. So the comment ID, and then pass the comment on the island version. Let's try it. Let's see this version. Okay, well, I mean, I don't think that's what's causing the problem, but I am noticing that I am missing a key here. Nested.id, but I don't think that's the problem. If I remove the recursion, how do I remove the recursion without, like, obviously if I just comment out this whole block, we're just not going to see very much here. It's all top level comments. We don't see any of the nested comments. The second that now, what if I remove the toggle? Let's play that game. Let's remove the toggle. So there and there. Oh, it's because we don't need these extra ones too. Okay. Remove the toggle. Now, interesting. Just navigate around. I just want to 66 comments. It renders, but I guess we have none of the UIs to indent it. If I remove the toggles, so we end up with more comments than before, and it renders. The second that I put the toggle in, okay, let's go the other way. Let's put the toggle in, but not render a comment. I don't know if that'll make it angry. Toggles in, don't render, we're fine. And then render the comment, recursive. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gathering that this is just something that's not implemented yet. Yeah, I don't know if I actually addressed this earlier, but the thing is, the trick here with the recursive partial hydration is that this is so much easier to explain to people who are familiar with let's clear this. People who are familiar with like the shadow DOM, but essentially, maybe it's not easy to show with this. This kind of shows what I'm talking about. This comment is a server component, right? So what ends up happening is you can pass a server component a server component can contain client components, but client component can't contain a server component. Otherwise, some client state change could cause a server component to need to re-render, and you'd have to go back to the server for it, right? But what this means, though, is on this boundary between client and server component, generally speaking, in most of these frameworks, is that if you have a client component and you pass the server component through it, like to children, what you can do is actually the server component will still get rendered on the server. So this logic still gets rendered as part of the server, and then it gets passed in as the child prop to the client prop already pre-rendered. So what I've managed to do with this pattern is essentially you render the comment, and when it has child comments, it's still rendering these on the server. And then their child comments come in again and still render on the server, And we end up with just these islands that wrap all a completely static server tree. And the benefit of doing this is if you look at this client component that I'm using, it gets past no props. And because it gets past no props and it just maintains its own state, we don't need to serialize any of the data for that prop. So if you notice here, even though we're doing the children, they're just kind of passed through. So the comments are always rendered on the server, regardless. They're just passed through this tree. And because none of the state needs to get passed to it, we don't actually have to serialize any of the data required to render those components. We just hide them here using like a class, right? We're just toggling the visibility. And for that reason, what we can do is we can both shrink the size of the JavaScript now in the client. Our island only needs to be this big. We don't need the whole comment island. And secondly, what we can accomplish by doing this approach is we saved all need for all data serialization. So instead of having that double data problem, you know, like I'm going to have to go back here and for now and change this to the islands version of the comment I was showing earlier. When you go here, essentially, because we started the island where the comment started, we had to render all, sure, we're hydrating it fine, but we ended up actually having to hydrate and pass all the data for all of these comments. So when you actually look at the network, you actually see all the data passed. And if I go into the div item view here, in here, you're going to see all the data again in the form of HTML. See? It's like it's all here. This is the whole blob of data again. So this is something that obviously every SPA framework has to deal with because they need to hydrate the whole page. But one of the cool things about islands is you can actually, by clever kind of the same tricks you use to hoist memo. I don't know if everyone's read Dan Abramoff's sorry, was it overreacted? He wrote something called Before You Memo, and he explains to people how you can improve React's performance by hoisting the state up, essentially, and changing the tree, right? Or one's moving state down, but he calls lift content up. And he's talking about how he can basically do this trick of passing things through, and it changes the render characteristic because the pass through gets associated with the parent. And I think he wrote this to help people not use memo, but you can tell that this was all just a preamble so that he could get people used to server component patterns, because this is the trick to islands. This is how you actually optimize it. You actually want to arrange your code in a certain way if you actually want to be able to optimize for islands. And this is true for React server components, like with Hydrogen or Astro or all of these. You end up kind of doing this kind of state hoisting pattern. Hopefully that answers the question a little bit. Anyways, I'm gonna leave this part of this now. Let's get this deployed and moved on. Essentially, there's a fixed fork. I don't know enough like how Deno works. Like usually I'd be just like messing with stuff with my node modules, but there is no node modules here, so I'm a little bit out of my element. Just to be fair. So I can revisit it. I'm going to leave the code for the other solution in line so I can change this. I want to kind of switch over to talk about what the deployment story is. I've done some work with Deno Deploy in the past, but mostly through Netlify. I also have a specific Deno Deploy adapter for Solid Start. But let's get this up. I'm not going to worry right now about the user page. It's not that important. So I think we spent enough time in this example for now. If the current version works, let's see what it looks like in prod. And I think that's the answer. We do have the current version working. Okay, sweet. Okay, so yeah, if I remember correctly, there's a couple ways to do this stuff actually. Deno Deploy CTL is one of them, and the other one is I can just make the GitHub repo. I actually did make the GitHub repo, so maybe that's just a better story, right? Deno Deploy. You know what? Maybe I'll just do that. I think I made. Where did I? I think I made the GitHub repo. I'm just gonna. I'm so lazy. Actually, I don't want to add README, but yeah, you get the idea. I'm just gonna like copy this stuff over here. It. And then let's push all our files up. And then all right. Cool. All right. And then I think we're good. Yes. All right. There we go. Okay. We'll update that a bit, but now we have a repo. And then I think all I have to do is if I go to my Deno Deploy and sign in, I think I just have to link the GitHub. Why is that one there? Weird. All right. Give me 1 second while I get this in. Sorry, wrong place. Okay. And I want fresh Hackernews. Sorry, it looked like I lost internet for just a second. Main. I'm gathering main TS is the entry. And then I need to add, was it Deno? Let's just try linking this now and see if this works. I think I have to add the token. Maybe I'm wrong because I did it from the UI. Beautiful. Okay. All right, solid, fresh Hackernews Deno Dev. There we go. Okay. We have. Oh, did I never fixed. We're missing one thing. I never fixed the page navigation. Let's fix that really quick. We never fixed the page navigation. I kept it at page 1 because I wasn't sure how to get. Let's do something here. Let's underscore. What's underscore and what's context? Let's do this again and see what we're dealing with. Yeah, I imagine is underscore request. Is that what that is in that example? I'm gathering that's what it is. Okay. Can I go to get it? Yeah. I knew it would be something simple like that. I was just missing it earlier. Let's just copy that over. There we go. How did I get this here? I don't need. I should be able to do all of that stuff. Actually, this. Their normalized URL, that's because of React server components. And then URL page, and then telling me costing them, thank you. And then I have to apply this in both places. Both here and here. Beautiful. And now if that's all right, I should go back to localhost. Yeah, someone's like, you're not on localhost, and they're absolutely right. It's 8,000, isn't it? We should have the pages working now. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, my bad. But that means we get to test the other feature. Fix page navigation. This should auto deploy, right? Because it's all linked up. All right, beautiful. All right, and if everything works the way I hopefully magically works, that's probably a deploy I was seeing. Page navigation works. Okay. Yeah, I should make the text nav accessible too. How much of this do I? Funny thing is, yeah, okay. We'll just worry about the top nav. Actually, too. Let's look here. It's in our layout component. Nav class inner. Okay, let's see if we. The funny thing is, I actually didn't write this original example. If anyone's wondering, I actually this came from what do you call it? What is it? This came from Vue. Funnily enough, I probably have stuff that's like overriding other stuff. Yeah, it's right here. Like, I'm not like super familiar with what they ended up doing here originally. This is just opacity. Never mind. You can tell how much I play with CSS. Anyways. Yeah. I'm actually gonna have to figure this out. I keep on looking at the deployed one. Localhost. Silly me. I mean, that's the brute force way of making it accessible. So, yeah, I probably should, but I'm lazy. All right. I don't want it to be white. or something slightly. Actually, this is going to work against black, is it? Yeah, it's not going to work against black. Maybe just. I am not a designer. Forgive my terrible. It's going to be like a green color now when I hover. No, can't even see the difference. Am I looking at blog post? Yeah. Oh, thanks. I'm like, what's going on here? Oh man. That's. If it was possible, I made it less accessible. Oh man, I'm just the worst here. Okay. Just can at least see there's a hover state, and then built with fresh is somewhere else. Let's inspect that. Just gonna hard code that in really easily. GitHub. Done. Okay. Make text readable. Okay, so let's move on here. So now our example is readable and good. Okay, so I'm going to move this to a browser where there's no browser extensions or anything else, just so I can see it a bit better. So I can get an idea. So just kind of get an idea of where we're sitting on this. Obviously, no JavaScript on the initial page load, because this is a completely static page. And then when we go into something like the comments, it's pretty smart. We don't need very much JavaScript at all. We could do better with the recursive thing, but this is a very simple example here where we can see that we can get 6.8 kilobytes. And for people wondering how small 6.8 kilobytes is for this page, it's still pretty freaking good, because even without the recursive, to give you some ideas here, let's go in here. Svelte kit, will on this page be 20 kilobytes. Hell, solid start on this page will be 12.6 kilobytes. Like we're like that. This fresh page using these techniques is already half of like a SPA. Obviously, there's things like Quick where they can be like, oh look, no kilobytes, but as soon as you do this comment, well, this is 16.5 kilobytes. So, there's like this is a pretty good starting point. Hydrogen. Let's just look at this one. 58 kilobytes, right? Smallest React framework, but yeah, like if you want to start talking, I mean, if we bring out React, it's sort of like shooting fish, 61.9, and I don't even want to load next, but I have it here, so we can just kind of give an idea of the difference that islands can make, right? 129. Obviously, I left some of my favorite contenders to end here. We got Astro Solid, just to kind of give an idea, 4.8 kilobytes, obviously. But this has the recursive hydration trick, which we are yet to add to our fresh example. And then I got Marco 6 here. Why not? Deploy the Deno Deploy. And this one's 1.6 kilobytes. And I mean, that's fine. Nothing is going to beat Marco when it comes to this stuff. So we just use it as kind of a guideline to kind of know where things are at. But this is just JavaScript load. Honestly, the JavaScript load not going to make the hugest difference. It's just important just to kind of understand as a baseline what the islands are doing for you here, right? Like the smallest single page app example I have here is 12.6 kilobytes of solid, and Preact with Fresh is already half of that, right? So, without probably even, it can be optimized further in the future. So I think this is like a good understanding of where that kind of sits. The other thing I want to kind of look at is, let's just kind of get an idea of what the load, what the load characteristics look like here. I'm going to just load this comment page. Which one are we on? I feel like I should be on the same one for everybody. Which one? Which one did I go to? Sorry, just looking here. Unhappy users notepad. Is that the one that I looked at with everyone? Yeah. I think I might have been looking at a preloaded page though, because I don't think unhappy users notepad. Oh, there it is. Still here. It's funny though, because it looks like, okay, there we go. Yeah, let's look at the load characteristics here and just do a quick timer profile. Yeah. The data serialization size does have an impact here, but I'm going to let perf tests show the impact. I mean, what you will see, and we can look at that in a second too. We'll look at both. Okay, yeah. So this timeline is pretty typical of an async render. We have the initial load. Let's give it one more run. Just kind of get an idea. All right. So 230. Let's do that one more time. Didn't like that one. Better. 206. Async render. Load our assets. Global CS being processed. Get our chunks in, and then we get our first paint. 409. And it's all the same because it's async rendering. This is going to, I imagine, is very, very similar to the kind of scenario that we see with something like Astro, right? Just kind of do that. Let me just get an idea. Both of these, interestingly, are on Deno Deploy, so I think that's kind of interesting. Let's give it another go. Yeah. Same idea, right? First paint and contentful paint and that all around. Yeah, so so we do 310. Yeah, okay. So this is the same kind of ballpark scenario where you have about this thing, have the assets all load in, first content. Hydration is something that I wouldn't mind seeing, but I guess it's hard to compare apple to apples because we're not doing the recursive thing. But yeah, it seems about in the range, right? So this is pretty typical for this, right? We can take something like Remix and kind of look at the performance profile here. And let me choose a, oh, that's really, let's try that one more time. Better. There we go. No, still not better. Let's keep doing it again. This one's not on Deno, so I think that might be actually the biggest difference here. I've been pretty impressed with Deno. This is Cloudflare. Okay. Yeah, I'm not getting what I want here, unfortunately. Let's not trust my local profiling that much more. Oh, there we go. Here we go. 340. I think the biggest thing you want to notice here is kind of like the difference in hydration kind of timing. Let's see. Let's look here. That's interesting. I'm not seeing much in the way of hydration here, although I know this works. We tested it. Yeah, that's interesting. Because it looks like the hydration stuff's happening here, which is why is the first paint delayed is interesting, because like if you look at the timing, this is probably the hydration stuff happening here. But if like compare the timing to like when I was doing remix, you do the first paint, then you see the hydration stuff here, right? That's interesting. Okay. Right. Very different timing than the other ones. Okay, let's just run a few page insights. Just kind of get an idea of where we're at. These are always kind of fun to do. I'm kind of curious actually, for completely different reasons, because as you all know, there is that terrible page that I have here, right? So I'm going to run solid right off the bat here, because I should run the Deno version, shouldn't I? Yeah, let's run the Deno version. Or Netlify Edge is probably close enough. Let's just do that version. This page is just mean. I'm wondering if the API people are ever going to block me from just doing this. No, there's no. Only Quick does that waterfall request thing by default. All the other ones just load the JavaScript that's needed. Right. Let's just get a baseline and kind of work from here. Yeah, you guys are all familiar with the page of doom, which basically is this single page app killer. Yeah. This page is brutal. Okay, so it's hard for a single page app to get past 50 on it, right? I'm curious where our hybrid state gets us, because I feel like we're going to still pay the serialization cost, and it's actually going to be a real cost here, unfortunately. So let's take a look here. I expect an improvement over like the SPA. I'm using Solid as a guinea pig, so that we just know that SvelteKit, Remix, and them are all about the same. I'm kind of curious what the timing is here. This page is brutal, because it's like a page with 14,000 comments. Like, just to kind of put it on similar, yeah. Like it doesn't really matter which SPA framework you put in here, it's gonna be brutal. Quick is pretty good, but Marco is probably, yeah. I'm gonna pull Quick up in a minute. Quick's, I've had some issues with Quick's server rendering performance. Like, I think they've improved it. I've got some improved stuff, and I was able to do the recursive thing. I'm worried about this page can cause workers to time out sometimes. Okay, so yeah, there's something that we're gonna run that again, but I think we still need to. Oh yeah, something is hitting the APIs hard right now, because nobody should be scoring. No one should be scoring 22 on this. Let's see what's going on. Yeah. I wonder if the APIs are being slow to respond. If is what's going on, and because we've run this many times before. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we got some stuff to investigate, perhaps. Okay. Yeah. Let me pull Quick up, just because I can. Although Quick's interesting because they don't load anything, so they kind of bypass this test a bit. But then if you ever seen, like, I need to make this so it loads it eagerly, because if you've ever seen this, like, can I show you what I've shown this before? I take slow 3G and I like load this. You're like, okay, whatever. Takes a while, understandable. But the thing that always kind of gets it is for a page like this, which has such minimal interaction, you should preload it. But if you don't, this happens. You click it, and then I'm talking to you still, and you're waiting, and it's loading, and then eventually it collapses. So that's kind of the trade-off that can happen if you go too aggressive here. So like that's my quick example. I haven't figured out. Yeah, and this is very low for quick. Yeah, I think what we're having right now is we're hitting API. We're hitting some kind of API throttling thing happening here, because let me see if I can pull up something like Marco. Actually, maybe just the let me see if I can pull up like Marco 6. I imagine we've hit. I think maybe the APIs are talking. Either that or something has changed in Page Insights since I last checked. So let's see what's going on. Yeah. I think the external data API so far it's usually relatively consistent within the same zone. Yeah. Okay. So maybe we're just at a point right now, yes, where everything's a little bit slow, because it's still kind of proportionally in the right place. Let's try. I got one more right now. I got Astro Solid. Yeah. Because this one's actually one of the higher scoring ones too, because again, it tricks it by using idle load time, right? But not loading the scripts up front. And this seems to play into it. But I am actually curious, because I am seeing really fast render times, but then I'm seeing an interesting thing. I'm going to try this one more time. Yeah, Astro 66, Marco 74. Yeah, so Remix 39. What? I think this, okay. Yeah, know what I want to do? I want to use something else here to check this out, because initial response time is good. Yeah, sometimes I'm confused by this, because it's telling me the first contentful paint's at 6.6 seconds, but like there's no good reason for that. So unless data serialization is that expensive, we could scale down the example. We can try. Let's look at it. Let's view this for ourselves, right? Let's just take a look here and view this for ourselves. Okay, what are we seeing? Yeah, because the responsiveness is pretty fast. No throttling. What's going on? Yeah, there's something interesting about Fresh's profile that I've never seen before. And I think this is something. See how this JavaScript all runs before it registers the first paint event. This is highly unusual, which is interesting. I wonder if it does it on other pages too. Like, I wonder if the page actually loads fast, but Lighthouse isn't reporting it properly. Let's try something. Let's try something else on this page. Yeah, let's use the Astro version, because that's probably going to be the closest to what we're looking at. Okay, because it should have a similar like island timing profile kind of thing. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so there's some initialization stuff. Then there's a big layout piece, and then there's a paint, and then there's the hydration. Okay, well, let's try this one more time. Well, I hope not. We just did Deno Deploy, right? And it looks like I'm not seeing. Okay, let's do this one. Yeah, this is interesting. Sometimes you find weird stuff on these timelines, and it always kind of gets me interested, because like one point at Astro, I we had accidental script tags mid-page, which is causing early paint flushes, which actually was good for performance, but it was completely unintentional. And I've been kind of curious ever since then to see if there's like actual notable differences on these timelines. Okay. Yeah, Marco is just kind of stupidly fast, but I mean, we expected that. Okay. Yeah, see, like it's usually this is kind of the typical profile. Like if you look at this, there's the page loads, you load some scripts and stuff, but there's a bunch of task layout rendering because this page is stupidly long. Then you see a first paint, and then you see some scripts that happen for hydration, right? If I follow Astro with Sol, it's a very similar thing. We see this, we see a bunch of rendering, and then we see first paint, and then we see a bunch of scripts with hydration. All right. And if I take something like Remix, same deal. This, sorry, let's get a bigger page on them. You know, this is a single page app. The hydration is just going to be much bigger, but it's the same. It's the same thing again. But what's really interesting about the fresh example is this stuff happens here, then there's the layout, and then the first paint. So it's like, is there a place, I can't trust this is what I'm getting at. I'm positive the first paint happens earlier. We saw that even on the timelines. So let's go to, what's the other one? It's webpagetest.org. And actually, let's do something a little bit different. Flash video. Okay. Let's actually try this with a more detailed timeline to kind of get an idea of what's going on. Because, yeah, yeah, let's do that. Let's try to choose which ones I want to take for this. Not worried about quick. Let's take fresh. Let's take fresh. Let's take, let's just take solid spa, something that's not even probably particularly performant. I guess I could do, because I'm just going to take solid. Actually, let's just do this one. And then I need to make sure that's on the same page. /stories/ and then and 4G, and let's just, actually, I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add Marco, probably, just because I want to see almost like a baseline. Okay, this will take a minute. Appreciate, I've probably lost a few people over the course of the stream, but just this is just curious. Obviously, anytime you kind of play with something new, you're gonna discover some things. These are all actually off on Deno. I think through Netlify maybe for one of them, but I believe they're all from Deno. Oh, I guess the problem with Solid and Marco versions do streaming. So the timing might be a little bit different. Yeah, the thing is that the Netlify Edge is Deno, and I'm pretty positive that we did Marco on the Deno Edge stuff because we were doing all the request response stuff, and yeah, we hadn't got the serverless function stuff going. Creative benchmarking game show. Yeah, That's the problem is I don't usually use this one all the time because it, like when I on stream, because it actually takes a little bit to actually calculate like what's going on. It's a little bit more, how should I put it, trustworthy than page speed from Lighthouse, because I feel like what we're seeing here on the fresh stuff is like if I don't know, maybe they truncate the timeline, but they're saying initial response 0.8, and then they're showing this timeline where the stuff's like right there. And if you look at, let's say, solid, okay, initial response 0.7, like it's within the same range. And then again, okay, so this one's good, but we're streaming, so we don't see the content right away. Where's a good remix? Initial response 1.1. What I'm getting at is, and it's a little bit further down too, why it's the first full paint delay that's insane here, right? Like solid's 3.2, remix 4.6, 6.6 here, even though I can see it. Like this metric is not getting reported properly, perhaps, right? Like if you can see it this early, it should be in the 3s. Maybe even the 2s. So yeah, I think that's interesting, to say the least. Yeah, see this, so oh yeah, right, the Marco 6 doesn't support streaming yet. Interesting. Okay, so what I got here on this run was solid rendered first, but it's streaming it in. And then these two came in around the same time, probably because of the data serialization. And then Marco 1 because it has less data serialization. That makes sense to me. And then let's look at the film strip, and let's actually change it to show, no, not largest contentful paint. Let's look at document complete. How does that change the timing? A little bit longer. Let's add fully loaded. Interesting. Okay. Sorry, did I reset fully loaded? Fully loaded, okay. Okay, so what's going on here? Huh. Interesting. Yeah, that data's, I need to compare it to more things, but it is suggesting, though, that the first contentful paint is happening that late. Okay. So my guess, if I had to make a hunch here, is the data, this is what we're seeing is data serialization cost. It might be just slightly more expensive than whatever approach Fresh is using for data serialization, maybe. And it's pushing this back a fair bit. Right, because obviously I jumped straight to the depth test, right? Obviously, if we pick something much more reasonable, like say here, this is easy hundreds, right? So I'm trying to. Yeah, it's yeah, 1 1 1 1 1 1. That's very nice. Yeah, I'm gathering it's hydration. It can be some other stuff too. Like part of it could be loading that serialized data. And yeah, but yeah, it's probably hydration. It could be. It can also be. I mean, we can look at the timeline here again and see. Like, I don't see anything particularly outlier here in terms of total time. So I think, yeah, I mean, this is 1241. Like there's nothing particularly bad here locally. So I've actually had similar issues with Astro taking time. I'm not sure what the difference is between fully loaded and document complete, because if I go document complete, like I can see it's pretty similar. Last change? No, that's basically the same as first paint. The recursive comment stuff would actually, we don't have here on the fresh one. That one would actually improve performance because it reduces serialization. That's why Marco is so far ahead. It is generally the serialization cost. But what's interesting to me is I was expecting these to be about the same, you know, like, and it looks like Fresh actually comes in a bit sooner. Maybe the time Solid does for the streaming, like slightly. We're talking like very, I don't know what the exact timeline is, but yeah, this is interesting. Okay. I mean, if people are going to bear with me, I want to do one more. I want to go back to here and do one more. It's always good to run these things a couple times too. Ryan, this one. We're gonna run just the two of these one more time. I'm put Astro in just to kind of get a. That's probably the closest to similar. Yeah, the recursive client hydration, but like Solid has the recursive client hydration too, right? Any single page app has the recursive client side rotation. And that means they have to serialize all the data and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, this is probably worth. It's still early, and I think like I usually I don't put quick on here usually because quick's in the past, at least, its serialization costs are actually the worst out of all the frameworks. So I didn't showcase its highlights. I'm just kind of a little bit curious. Like this page again, this is stupid test as usual because it's kind of derived. But I'm just kind of curious because I'm less curious about this as I mentioned before, as this timeline that puts the first paint after the fact is kind of crazy, right? Like why would the first paint, sorry, it's not, let me get up here, be like, why is the layout, like there's nothing happening over here. Like if I zoom out far enough, I know it's hydrated and there's nothing running over here. Like, but there is a bunch of scripts that run before the first paint event, which is very unusual. Yeah. The Astro one is, yeah. But you know what's funny about the client idle? I think, and that's kind of why I'm testing this here. The client idle, yeah, the client idle will actually come and bite you usually on this part of the test because it will take longer. Yeah. Okay. I have no explanation for this. I'm pretty. Let's look here. Well, the timeline looks better here. I don't actually see that much JavaScript execution, to be fair. See, on this side we have Fresh, on this side we have Astro. Astro's doing a whole bunch of hydration stuff at the end. That's why it's taking so long. But on the fresh side, what is coming up here? Because the idle just pushes back work. If any of you are wondering, I'm going to jump back in my history and see if I can go back to this timeline. Yeah, between the three. Visually complete solid takes the longest. Makes sense, or depends, I guess. It's close enough. But then full on load time, CPU busy time. Yeah, I think this is probably worth more investigation. It's not very clear. Something on the client side of Fresh is not happy here as well. So it's both the weird delayed first paint and then something on the client side. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird that the first paint is delayed. But it's also a little bit like this long tail is unusual too. So like the thing that's kind of let me explain this a bit. See, Marco is async like this one, which is why like the problem is with stuff that renders async, you load everything at this point. You get the page, you start loading the document, and usually like it is a bit longer. Like with streaming, we're already doing a bunch of work at this point, so like this can be shorter because like the page actually loaded back here and is loading assets, doing stuff, getting JavaScript warmed up, doing all that. So when we get to hydration time, we're actually like kind of covering things. So it is natural, but this is still like a little bit. And if I fast forward all the way to the Astro ones, which is also async, these are both async. Again, like Marco, it's about 4. And this just, yeah, I don't know. It's just like a little bit, not much, but it's like, it's a little bit. So yeah. No, I don't, well, maybe I actually, let's look at what we're doing here. Let's look, do we get any kind of thing? Because I don't think so. It looks like the script tag is inlined. And it's at the bottom of the page, which is good. And then you have type module, which is where the hydration happens. Okay. So revive, which is hydrate, doing this. So technically speaking, everything should load in before. We should get our first paint, hit the script tag, and we should be good to go. So this looks all fine from my perspective. It isn't doing any idle loading. Like if you look at Astro's code, it's doing, I mean, this is because of the recursive hydration. We got like a lot of these. But it's doing, like, you can see these. There's like, there's code to delay it. Unless, well, I guess we can look at what Fresh does. But it looks, from what I can see, that it just ES6 straight up imports the comment at this point. The scripts module, so just async timing, just loads in, or deferred timing, I guess, technically. It loads in, when the document's ready, pulls in these files. Like there's no lazy loading or anything here. It's not like Astro, you saw like the promises and stuff. I think this is just like client load. Yeah, I mean, this is a single page app, but I mean, I think it might hurt. Like if you're already doing the work to like do islands and reduce hydration costs, I think like this would hurt perception. Yeah, well, LCP, yeah, I mean, LCP is useless on this one because like there's so much content on the page. You get like, I'm pretty sure LCP is based off visual page. So basically if you load 2 stories, you have LCP and the page is like, you know what I mean? Like, Anything else in the head? Let's look. Head. Link, meta, style, script. Preloads for, no, actually, this is not preloads. This is just entry file and island code. Okay. So it's just the JavaScript code loading in the head. Yeah, it's not lazy. As I said, yeah. This is all in the head in Astro. Yeah, no, it looks eager, like I'd expect, if that makes sense. See if I can actually look at the Marco one here. Script. Yeah, that's all the islands. Yeah, the async type module supports streaming eventually, but doesn't need to be. Yeah, no, this looks, the fresh one looks pretty much what I'd expect it to look like. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we can mess with it a little bit. I mean, I'm probably getting kind of long in the stream here, but what we could do, the browser flushes when it hits a script tag. So we could do something like on this page, before we like draw all the comments in, we could do something like just like get the, like, maybe I'll just put in the nav. Like, let's see if we can force an earlier first paint, like just for fun. Like, we can go to the layout here, and then after the header before this, we can just do like script. I don't know if it actually needs to contain anything. This is a good question, but we're just going to put a script, and this will be a synchronous script, which will tell the browser that it needs to flush paint right away. So yeah, we're gonna have to deploy it to check. So we're just gonna do like force early first paint. Let's see what this does. Let's see if this works. Okay. I think this is. We were looking at the performance profile here. Yeah. Okay. Let's try this timeline. Didn't do what I wanted. Is it deployed yet? It is. It's right here. Maybe I actually need to put something in the script. Like maybe a blank script tag isn't going to do what I want. Maybe we have to actually execute JavaScript, because this didn't pull it forward at all. What module is this that it's evaluating forever? Anonymous function? Can we look and see what code we're running? It's probably all minified, but what is this? Okay, this is HTML. What? Okay, sorry. Let's look back at the performance profile and see if we can load. Oh, right, because it's what they're saying is this is a script that's on the actual page. It's this big hydration blob. Let's go back to the. Interesting. Yeah, why is this? It's running like you think to get down here, it would first paint would have to trigger, but it's like running before first paint. This is exceptionally weird. Okay, we're gonna try one more thing here, and make the inline JavaScript do something. Like let's just maybe have it do a query selector or something that would cause it to have to like check the page, right? Something like escaped or something. I'm thinking maybe just like document get element by something that would cause it to read. I'm trying to think of what would be a good one. First, see if this actually even works properly, because let's look at our local host. Are we getting a? Okay, we are. It's funny. Every once in a while, you come across weird things. Another weird one for me is Next.js does the exact opposite to this. Okay, that's more promising. It's this script split at least. Okay, let's try and deploy this. Next.js, I'm not, I haven't shown it this stream, but it reports first paint, like a gap between first paint and largest contentful paint, which makes no sense when it's an async render. I'm constantly confused by Next for that reason. Yeah, okay, let's try this one. Okay. And then let's try this. Success. You see, first paint's up here now. And the saddest thing about this is this stupid hack, which we shouldn't do. Again, I don't know, but what it's going to do here. Stories. Good for me. 301. Have this practically memorized at this point. 326. This is just to show you how much, if I think is right, how much Next.js, or sorry, how much Lighthouse weighs in on the first paint. No, okay, only slightly better. Okay, well that's still not too helpful, but it changed our local timeline. We can actually see the first paint happening here now instead of at the end. It actually splits the layout. Yeah, that's interesting to say the least. That yeah, that is very interesting to me. You think the first paint event would generally happen before all the scripts run at the end of the file, but for some reason it doesn't in the typical place. Anyways, I think I'm done playing with this. I don't know if there's anything else specifically we can do, yeah, make the flesh component. I'm just going to remove this and just go back to, go back to where we were. But yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. That's as I said. Sometimes you get these weird side effects when you do rendering on the web. As I said, Next.js for some reason reports early first paints always. Maybe it does something like that. But I mean, the HTML generally being returned here looks pretty normal. Yeah. Wonder what Revive is doing. I'm gonna assume Revive is their hydrate, because it takes in a keyed component, and I'm gathering this is the name comment, and so that they take the component island, take the comment, and that key is probably used somewhere without, and they connect it to the data and do the hydration. There isn't any other code in the page, so they basically just inline the hydrate script. Makes a lot of sense. I'd look at my build folder to kind of reverse engineer it, but there isn't one. I mean, so, I mean, we can, that's the browser's for, right? We can look at the minified code, see what we're dealing with. H as revive. Here we go. H looks for stuff that matches a certain pattern, probably for hydration data. Oh, can we breakpoint in any of this? Oh, I'm in the response. I want the source. At this point, let's see here. Because if we refresh, hopefully we'll hit a, oh, right, because I redeployed, which probably screwed that up. Okay, let's try to get in here. Just the reason I'm doing this breakpoint here is so I mean, the page is here when hydration starts, right? Like, let's try this again. This is called per. Interesting. I wanted to, where's it? H as revive, HE function T of document body. Okay, let's go there. What? Okay, wait. You guys might be onto something. Something not working properly. Oh, it's weird. When I breakpoint here, the page, okay. See, it's like still loading, and then when the load times out, it like fails, and then when I continue. I'm curious. Okay, no, that's fine. It's just the pausing. Yeah, it's part of those load characteristics, though, that are causing it. Like the page is still loading according to the browser while the, yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, thanks for looking. I think this is something that we're just gonna have to figure out in the future here because it's curious to say the least. Yeah, I mean, module type or scripts of type module always get deferred to the page load event generally, but I don't know why the first paint would get pushed back. So very weird. Okay. Well, hmm, definitely definitely some interesting stuff going on. In general, though, I look forward to being able to get the recursive hydrated version of this up and going in the future. I think the interesting thing for me about Fresh was I kind of I'm also hi cousin. Yes. Hi Jonathan. I didn't actually notice at first. I was just like, oh yeah, this good comment. And then it's like um yeah. What I was gonna say is um yeah, I'm just gonna make one more banner right here so I can break it up later. I'm just gonna kind of give some overall thoughts now on Fresh and what I've seen so far. I think that having everything in the JSX is really kind of cool. The one thing that became really immediately obvious to me when looking at the structure of just doing the islands versus like it's funny because you've seen it with dot server, but with the islands approach, it just makes it so obvious that everything else is server. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't have to worry about it in the same way and have a bunch of like interlacing files and different like dot server dot client and all that. And it very strongly says server is our default, right? I mean, obviously saying dot server is a strong way of saying that. But like if you ignore the islands folder for a minute, everything here is is server. And I think what's really cool about that is if other frameworks wanted to adopt islands like JSX frameworks like Remix or Solid Start, this is kind of an interesting pattern because you do it in two steps. You go to your root TSX and you remove the script tags. And then you'd have like an islands folder specifically, and then just pull in the island components. And that transformation doesn't seem too crazy, right? When I was looking at Astro and Marco and all that, I was always like, oh man, this is like such a perfect environment for this. Everything's set up for it. Like it's worlds apart in your thinking. But this is the closest I've seen to like a full JSX solution where like it does the stuff and it just feels and it feels like it just kind of works really naturally. I think getting used to Deno is going to take a longer time for me though. I like looking at build outputs. I like looking at source code in my node modules. So like having it missing, and there's probably ways you can do it, and people are mentioning if using extension was really strange to me. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, okay, if I hover over this and I hold command and I can look at the code, okay, so that works. Okay, so yeah, it is doable. I was just having trouble with this earlier for some reason. I go to fret. Okay, yeah. So a little bit of getting used to it. It actually seems to be working now. So we can trace into the code to see what's going on. But yeah, it was just I like debugging things. I'm kind of old school. You saw the console log, so like having the ability to kind of just kind of go in is something I'm used to. I'm not used to having. I know Yarn 2 did this too a bit, or like I'm not used to having my modules or PMPM had a version of. Anyways, I'm not used to having my node modules go away. Not used to not having my build output to look at. So it definitely like took me like a moment there. But once you forget about that, as I said, the setup here is really natural. Didn't worry too much about import maps yet, but I can see how that can work. It doesn't. I know it's like no config, but I mean, I count multiple config files in here. So like that part isn't a different sell. I mean, people can sell on that if they want to, but to me, this isn't really the no build thing doesn't really matter at all from where I'm sitting. But I did mention the eBay use case at the beginning, but in general, it felt like taking down a modern framework kind of starter. Obviously, the docs are new, and we got to do some work. I play a lot with new frameworks, so you're kind of used to that. Like I built the quick Hackernews before they had any docs, so it's perfectly kind of fine. And I think things are coming around. I think it's really cool that Deno is kind of embracing this first class. I'd love to see more frameworks take on this. I think the pattern here with the islands folder is actually just really makes a lot of sense. I guess that's my biggest thing. Obviously, I look forward to better docs in the future. I look forward to giving that recursive hydration so I can finish this example out. And I think that in general, it's, as I said, it's kind of funny. I was copying stuff from Astro and from Solid and from Remix. Coding in these frameworks is all really similar for like the view templating part of the code. So yeah, there wasn't too much to get tripped up on. It's kind of funny how we've kind of developed out that way. Some people are like, oh, closer to HTML, but I don't think frameworks that are closer to HTML actually can offer that same experience. If I'm moving between Vue and Svelte, I actually have to change my code a lot more. So it's kind of interesting. It's all just templating, but that's one thing that I've kind of noticed from doing all this. But in general, I think Fresh is a little bit early, but I think it's really cool. I think what it's doing is very timely, and I think it's the right kind of thing to launch Deno or Deno with. Yeah. So any questions before we wrap up the stream? I'm gonna take off the banner. Yeah, I'm just gonna look what we got here. What if hydration is screwed and it removes all the elements for the whole page? That's what I was suspecting for a moment, which is why I put in the comment. I was trying to break it there, but I mean, it's still possible something like that's happening. But I don't know if that's what it is. When I was doing the breakpoint, I was hitting basically the page load failing. I wonder if there's something that I can put further down to kind of debunk that, but my gut is that's not what it's happening. Like I see hydration happening here. I think this looks, let's just calling remove child here. Maybe S. It's S. Maybe we should see if it actually gets in here. Removing some stuff, but I think it looks like it's removing maybe their comment markers. Okay, but yeah, I have no reason to believe that that's what's going on. But that is another reasonable thing. But you'd still get the first paint. The thing is, even if it painted and then did like the really bad hydration of removing and painting again, you get the first paint score. Something is weird there. The way Lighthouse is reporting it, the way something's going on. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. To me, almost all the next generation of frameworks do this pretty well, where they put the request response model right in. I mean, Remix is an obvious example, but so is SvelteKit, Solid Start. Yeah, I think there's some legacy there, but almost all the new ones that came out kind of edge first in the last year or two are very much on the same page here. Next and Nuxt have a bit of a longer legacy, but I think all the new ones had the benefit of having the spec in the browser and having all the runtimes converge on it. So I don't know if I saw anything particularly unique about Fresh in that sense, but as I said, as a Deno launching thing, I think it's great. I think it highlights what they should be highlighting. MPAs are just better at the edge. than other places perhaps. And then just being able to be lightweight. Preact is one of the lightest VDOM libraries. It just carries the message really well. Yeah. It's definitely an optimization technique, and it's something that like we use a lot at eBay and with Marco, and so that's why I was very familiar with using this pattern. And it's funny, as I said, that Dan Abramoff article preparing people for React server components talked about it. What's interesting about it is it's also something that I'm hoping, and the Marco team are hoping in the future just goes away, right? It's components and the need for components which causes this need for the structure, right? It's like, that's why we have all this hoisting thing, is because components have a runtime element. And that's why you're seeing frameworks like Solid and Quick and Marco basically get rid of the runtime element of components so that they don't have to play this game. As I said, Quick is very quickly catching up to where Marco is, and where Marco is kind of crazy. They've been able to use the reactive graph similar to Solid and basically just split everything up that way. And these kind of optimizations, like I'm showing here, you know how we did that island moving trick in Marco? You literally just write the code and the compiler automatically generates even stuff more optimal than what we did with the recursive partial hydration. It just works automatically. You just write like normal code to like your React app, and it just does that, right? So I think that I think these optimizations are great. I think they're going to get it even better to the point that people won't have to worry about it, and they'll happen automatically. Yeah, you mentioned the compiler, exactly. Only thing that I think for solid start that might be interesting here is if we ever wanted to do that MPA switch. I think the fact that you can just be like, look, islands folder, and then you just go, how to make an MPA. You just create the root, TSX, remove the script tag, and then go islands folder. But like that kind of thing. Like after seeing this, I realized that an MPA mode would be much easier than I thought. That being said, it's an effort in itself. Are we going to make an MPA framework right this second to do that, or can you just go use Astro? I have bigger fish to fry when there's good solutions out there, and I think this becomes the most appealing to us when we actually accomplish that thing that's better than islands, the thing that Quick does, the thing that Marco does. But it's going to take me a while to get there. So what I suspect actually is someone will just write a Beat plugin to do this, and we'll just slide it in and it'll just work. And that's why Beat is so amazing. So I'm not actively looking at adding MPA mode or partial hydration to solid start, but looking what I can see here, I think someone could do it relatively like in a reasonable way if they wanted to do the work of making an MPA framework. And if you're just making it for solid, I'm sure that'll be less effort than trying to do something like Astro, which works for everything. But it's not my personal priority, but I can definitely, Fresh gives me an insight on how we could just like add this as a check mark. Do you know any solutions to parse the component at build time, basically reducing the upload? It depends on what you're talking about. There's stuff like prepack from Facebook, which was kind of interesting, which like pre-calculated stuff it could and like reduce the JavaScript. But I think the biggest savings you can make right off the bat here is just looking at stuff like these partial hydration frameworks. We didn't focus on it too much here, but they essentially know that certain part of the JavaScript only happens on the server and the rest only goes to the client. That's why it's so small here. We only need to ship that comment component. That's why Fresh is so small on JavaScript load compared to any single page app. And those kind of optimizations are present mostly, or basically today, only in multi-page apps. You lose the client-side navigation because of the tree hierarchy. And I've explained that in other streams. So if you're looking at solutions to reduce JavaScript load in the browser, so like less hydrates, less runs in general, I would say on the MPA side, there's quite a bit. I mentioned them: Astro, Marco, Quick. I think what's interesting to me, as I said, is this escape from components. when you escape from components and use something like reactivity, like Solid scales on interaction, not on component size, not on view size. Like, yes, the template gets bigger that we have to clone, but if there's ever a partial hydration story, you just not ship the template. So it's only the interactive points that actually ship in JavaScript. Like if you see a Solid app, like if you make all static HTML, there's basically no code. It doesn't matter how many, like the component calls are basically no ops. Like they just call one function. Like it doesn't matter how big your page is. It matters how many points of interaction. And I think that mindset shift and using compilers to support that is basically how we're going to accomplish these things more so. Yeah, exactly. We'd have the fresh experience. And I think it's interesting. People like Alexis in Solid Community has already made a Solid kind of thing this called Solitude, which is basically an islands architecture made all with Solid components. But I think it'd be really interesting to see this almost as a Vite plugin that you could just slide right in. Disappearing application. Yeah, we hope. As I said, I think the most successful at that so far is upcoming Marco 6. It's as I said, it's not even close, right? We looked at this, right? Marco 6 for this page, which is like 70 kilobytes in a React framework like Next, is 1.6 kilobytes. And for information here, someone actually wrote the code in vanilla JavaScript with server rendered to see how big this page would be. And obviously that's fairly easy to do. You can just use a selector and add each comment thing. And it was about 200, oh, sorry, it's about, what was it, 400 bytes? No, it's about 300 bytes. So essentially, the Marco version is about 6 times bigger than the vanilla version. But like, if you put that in the scale, the Marco version is also, 35 times smaller than the Next.js version. So like, yeah, I think we're going to see more innovation. Obviously, not everyone's going to be using Marco's compiler. It's kind of space age, and I worked on it, and that's why I know that I don't know. It would take me years to re-implement it, so it's not like the top of my priority list. But I think it's interesting, and I think more great work is going to go in there. All right, I think we're good. I think it has been 4 hours. Wow, and some of you people are still here. That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was a lot of fun. We got to learn some stuff. And next week, we're going to be back and we're going to talk about Solid's routing solution. And I think we've been doing a lot of updates, and this is kind of in anticipating stuff coming for Solid Start. And I'm going to have Ryan Turnquist, the co-author of Solid App Router, on stream with me. So you double Ryan's, and we can take you through routing in Solid, what it looks like today, what's it going to look like in the future, and all the cool stuff that is involved in that. All right, have a good one, everyone. So until next time, see ya.